everybody. Happy Friday. The weekend is here. Welcome to the Tip-Off, the show that sets the stage for all the most important news, daily fantasy plays, and bets on tonight's 10-game NBA slate and 14-game MLB slate. I'm your host, Kayla Knierim. Joining me today, back again, we've got Chris Spags, Dr. Ben Rasa. Fellas, how's our Friday going so far?
I feel like it's impossible to have a bad Friday when we get our tip-off show with us three, me, you, and Ben here doing the best we can to take people into the weekends. But I think it's a lot of looking like a fun NBA slate, looking like a chaotic MLB slate too. So this is all stuff that makes for a good tip-off show. And we got a short one too. So punch that clock early, start pounding some alcohol nice and right in the day. Sure. I feel good about it.
Yeah, massive slates, 10, 14. These are big time games. A lot of moving parts. So excited to get into it. I'm also excited it is Friday. Got a good weekend ahead. So all good things here.
Love it. Yes, we are a shorter show today. Lots to get to. So we're going to dive right in. Don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel for countless hours of content on the NBA, MLB, NHL, PGA, MMA, NASCAR, and every other sport that's in season. Let's talk about our sponsor, No House Advantage, who is taking a different spin on daily fantasy sports by offering player prop contests across the NBA, MLB, NFL, and PGA for cash prizes. This exclusively peer-to-peer fantasy sports platform levels the playing field and makes it easier for you to win real cash compared with your traditional DFS sites. With over 500 player props offerings, No House Advantage is the largest provider of player props in the industry. And the best part is that you will receive a $20 first match deposit bonus today using promo code Awesemo. Be your friends, not the house. Download in the App Store and win big with player props today. Bad beats. We are back after another rollicking 24 hours of NBA, MLB, and PGA going on. Did anything interesting happen for you guys last night? Spags, kick us off.
Well, I think one thing that was interesting to me, and it was something that that Dr. Ben had asked on yesterday's show. I don't know why I'm addressing you like you're actually a doctor.
Yeah, I'm not sure either, but okay.
but as the luminary Dr. Ben said on yesterday's show, asked a question about, how to handle some of the tanking teams and veterans versus rookies. And I gave my old take about how I'm generally erring towards the rookies, and only for the Detroit Pistons to just jam it right in my face yesterday. Dwayne Casey running 35 minutes of Corey Joseph out there after he wasn't playing for multiple games. I figured he would get meaningful run, but I didn't quite think they would make the Corey Joseph showcase for a guy who's been in the league for more than enough time. So it was a bit of a bad beat for me, one that it would have been nice to see Saban Lee get that run, a guy we talked about a little bit on the show yesterday. But I just want to see the young guys get their chance to shine. Dwayne Casey disagrees with me vehemently. So I guess kudos to the Corey Josephs of the world out there, just ruining things for us left and right.
It was pretty good for me, honestly. Spags, you were all over the Mavericks last night. I was impressed with them. I think we both thought that they had a fighting chance in that game against the Nets. One minor thing for me, I picked up, for some reason, I went into the under on the Wizards game, and I would have hit it, but the game went to overtime. Nothing you can do about that. But overall, I was actually pretty happy with the slate as a whole. The golf was really bad, but today has rallied. So you know what? I'm feeling good. We're certainly on the upswing. The bad beats were at a minimal last night.
Good to hear. Good to hear. Let's get to our NBA news. Brandon Ingram will be out tonight while Steven Adams is doubtful. What's the outlook for the Pelicans tonight at Philly, Ben?
So it's a situation with the bigs out here. It's obviously going to open things up. And I look at it, it's not a great situation for the Pelicans in general, going against potentially Embiid. I guess we'll have to see. The Sixers are a sizable favorite here. But if they're both out, I think you're going to potentially look to some value for this team. You've got Johnson, you've got Marshall. These guys are pretty cheap, but it also is a 10-game slate. Obviously, Zion is Zion, and he's going to do everything he can to keep them in this game and keep their hopes alive for the postseason. But I think this is one of these slates that you have to be selective, and certainly there are full teams of value that we'll get to in a little bit. So the Pelicans, although this would clear the deck in the front court, I don't think it's creating a massive plug-and-play situation.
Yeah, I would agree here. I'm actually a little surprised to not see Zion popping up more meaningfully, and I do have to give him a little bit more of a jump in his rates and all that to make sure that it's reflecting properly. But I do think Zion's going to be in play for tournaments. Certainly not an option that I would mind. You could sort of make the case for Lonzo Ball, though at his price on DraftKings over $8K, I don't know that I want to get there. And honestly, I have some concerns from the betting market perspective that I just think New Orleans might not be able to hang in this game. If you do have Embiid healthy on the other side, that would be my main concern too. It's just a really bad matchup for the Pelicans putting out Willie Hernan Gomez or Jackson Hayes or whatever else they want to put out there against Embiid. I think is not going to be quite as good as it would have been with Steven Adams out there. So I think, to me, really Zion, the tournament play you can make. Lonzo, maybe somebody else will feel more strongly about it than I do. But overall, it feels like there should be more here than there actually seems to be.
Jaylen Brown will be out again for Boston versus Chicago. Does anything stand out amongst the remaining Celtics without one of their star Spags?
I think this is kind of the same thing as the Pelicans, where you can make more of a case to me for Kemba Walker than you could for Lonzo Ball. Same thing for Evan Fournier, who I think is a fine enough play, though on this slate, it really does feel like you need more of a ceiling. And I know Fournier just had a pretty nice tournament day last time out, but I don't expect it to necessarily be the norm moving forward. I think the guy you really could take the flyer on is Jason Tatum. I think we're going to talk about him more in the one-on-one segment coming up, but Tatum to me, a pay-up option who is probably not reflecting highly enough at his median projection, where he's not going to look that great if you just kind of take that average of court time. The ceiling for him, if Chicago stays competitive in this one, I think is pretty huge. So Tatum would be the guy that I'm really looking forward to, even though you'll probably get more Kemba or Evan Fournier in an optimizer.
Yeah, Celtics 4-point favorite on the road here, 224.5 total. It really is one of those situations. I think Fournier is the guy that maybe the minutes are a little more solidified. We've seen, several times during the year that Stevens chooses not to close with him and whatnot. If he's shooting well, if he's playing well, this should set it up where he can push for 30 plus minutes. And that at a middling 5,400 price tag, I get. Obviously, when you talk about Tatum, it's more of a opportunity cost thing than anything else. I think on the surface, paying 10.5 for him is probably a little thin on a 10-game slate. But again, you're going to create some leverage if you do that. So this is a game, like I said, the Celtics are a slight favorite on the road. And we don't have, it's funny, 10 games, we don't have these like 240. We saw a 240 total last night at 236. We don't really have that. They're all basically like 215 to 225-ish. So we're not expected as much up and down play. So I'm not concerned. This is actually one of the better games to target, even if it's not, upwards of the 240 we saw last night.
The Rockets. What a disaster. They will be without Kevin Porter Jr., Avery Bradley, Sterling Brown, Eric Gordon, John Wall, and David Nwaba, while Daniel House is doubtful and Christian Wood, Jashawn Tate, Kelly Olynyk, and DJ Augustine are questionable tonight versus Milwaukee. Which Rockets will be left to play, and are they playable, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, it's not the Pistons, but it's close. Like, you give me a day off from the Pistons nonsense, and we get this. So obviously there's you just rattled off like 10 names who aren't playing. And then there's a bunch who may play, and we have to see what's up, with Tate and Olynyk and whatnot. But obviously it's going to create massive, massive value. Certainly Kenyon Martin Jr. is going to be a guy that people are going to look to. He was absolutely, he's going to crush these tags, sub 5K. Jeffries at almost the near min, didn't even shoot efficiently, but he played 40 plus minutes. Anthony Lamb. I mean, you can just rattle off. Basically, if all these guys are in fact out, you're going to be pushing for 30 plus minutes for all these value guys. And blowout risk, even though they're going to get blown out, is mitigated. It's just pure bodies. They don't have guys, and they're so far out of things, they don't care about keeping them on the court. So you're not going to worry about that. It's really just a matter of seeing, guys like Tate, guys like Olynyk, guys like Wood. Where are they at? If they're in there, certainly you can go right to them. But for everyone that's ruled out, certainly it solidifies the value for Houston tonight.
Yeah, so we had a question in the chat from, I think, Cut the Check earlier in the show asking about Houston's guys and whether you could trust them to be reliable even in a blowout. And the issue, or the question rather, is I think a valid one that people would have, but I think is one that if you just watch that last game, which I did do today just to make sure that I was getting a read on the situation the way that I thought I would, because I wanted to see who was going to be handling the ball and who was going to be doing that. Kelly Olynyk played in that game in the fourth quarter, even though they were down 20 at that point, just because they don't have enough bodies. And this is something that might be, I think, you might know this already if you're regularly playing DFS in these chaotic NBA times, but for people out there who don't know, you still have to play all the minutes of the game. That sounds like a dumb thing to say, but like they still have to play the rest of the game, and they don't have enough guys to play the rest of the game like a normal blowout situation would, where you sit your stars. Like they have to put Kelly Olynyk out there. One name that I forgot to put in the sheet initially before the show, DJ Wilson is the other big man. So if you get Christian Wood out again today, you're going to have Kelly Olynyk as the only big man. So he's going to play a ton of minutes, assuming that he does get in as well. And it's worth pointing out to me too, Anthony Lamb might be a name that people think is just, he got lucky with 3-point shooting last game. He was actually sharing point guard duties with Kelly Olynyk, which was kind of odd because Armani Brooks is a guy they've actually have played at point guard in the past, but he was not the primary ball handler. He was just kind of out there running around and not doing anything. Whereas Lamb and Olynyk were the two guys who were sort of initiating all the action. So I think Anthony Lamb is the one guy I would watch as one who is going to be pretty solid either way, because they just have nobody else who can play point guard. But Kelly Olynyk, to me, if he gets in, especially if Wood is out, he is a play that people won't appreciate as much as they should. He has been a whole new man. He had 60 fantasy points in that last game, but he's basically been like, and this is a very strong phrase, so I know people are going to tilt about in the chat, but He's basically been your Luka, your Giannis, whatever, when Houston has nobody on the floor, because he's the only guy who can do a bunch of things. And I think that's an important thing to note tonight, where that price tag may scare people off, and playing Olynyk, to me, especially if Wood is out, is a play that I think wins the tournament tonight.
Jimmy Butler and Tyler Hero questionable tonight versus the T-Wolves. How does their availability impact the situation for the Heat, Spags?
I think it's really important tonight, where if you have these guys in, I don't think Miami looks playable at all, even playing against Minnesota, where this is a game where they're projected for 9 more points than their season scoring average by Vegas. They're playing against a team who does play pretty bad defense, and kind of a shockingly high combined total in this one. And it's one of those ones in the higher range that Ben mentioned earlier, 226.5 combined total. But I think if those guys are out, then it's going to look a lot better for Kendrick Nunn. It's going to look a lot better for Goran Dragic. It's going to look a lot better for our boy Eric Lindquist, a favorite center Bam Adebayo, who helped him take down first place in the mini-max the other day. I think all those guys look like really, really strong plays if Butler and Hero are out. So I think you kind of want to see those guys out tonight, because if they're in, I don't know how you play a single Heat player.
Totally agree. So if they're in it, in some ways it's easier, because I think you just erase the Heat from the slate and kind of move on. They're 6.5 point favorite, 227 total, as we talked about. But if they are out, certainly Bam's going to have opportunities to just dominate in the front court. None should push easily over 30 minutes tonight. And I do think it'll solidify, the backcourt a little more, where you can get to these guys in kind of a balanced build. So pretty binary. I don't think there's too many permutations. If they're in, to me, there's clearly better options. It's not worth leveraging. If they're out, these opens up some guys on both sides. If you're looking for a big man, you can certainly go to Bam. And if you're looking for a guard, None would be where I would go. I think the minutes will get him there tonight.
Wendell Carter Jr. will be out again for Orlando, while their usual cast of sideline guys that we won't force Kayla to read, thank you, Spags. After that Rockets bit, is it Mo Bamba season once more versus Charlotte, Ben?
Yeah, I think it probably is. But the one thing here, when you're talking about a 10-game slate right now, and it's early, we're looking at our premium ownership projections. We have Mo Bamba possibly over 40%. That is a massive, massive number. This is not a short slate. So when you're talking about possibly 2/5 of the field putting that guy in their lineups, it creates a situation where you're always going to look for potential pivots, but it's hard to really reason with it. 6,100, he still has so much opportunity. If he stays out of foul trouble, and you don't really want to project foul trouble, he just gets there. I mean, he can do it in so many ways. Blocks, steals, obviously a walking double-double. So I get it. If with so many permutations and so many things on a slate like this, the prudent play, obviously for cash and whatnot, you're going to click him in there. I don't know how you really get around that, but keep in mind, he's probably going to be the highest owned player on the slate.
Yeah, I think there's some, fear there with Bamba being a very chalky play today. Just had a monster day that people see on the box scores too. So it's all going to really build to him being a play that people are going to go to very heavy tonight. And I think you have to go heavy. He's been a 1.3 fantasy point per minute guy this year. Today, because of the absences in the lineup, the fact that there is some more to go around, I have him being a 1.4 fantasy point per minute guy tonight. And that's going to be similar for Awesemo's projection too. Actually, pretty much exactly the same for Awesemo's projection. And I think the thing too to look at is that the Hornets team that we talked about in the past give up a lot more assists threes. I think that's going to benefit Mo Bamba. They give up 7% more than league average. Mo Bamba had no fear just chucking up threes last game. That's what he's going to do. And if he gets hot from three, you could actually see him have that 60, 70 fantasy point upside, assuming he's playing a full allotment of minutes and not getting into foul trouble, like Ben mentioned. So I'm terrified to go back to Bamba. I think that you can maybe pivot a little bit to Mo Wagner if you want, try to get, that's what would happen if you saw foul trouble for Bamba, is that you'd see more 5 minutes for Wagner in addition to his regular power forward run he's been getting recently. But I think for the most part, you have to be at least with the field on Bamba, just because he is a guy that has legitimate, fantasy ceiling of a guy who's like 8 or 9K on most slates.
And lastly, we've got De'Aaron Fox and Tyrese Halliburton remain out for the Kings, while Harrison Barnes is doubtful. Is it another night where you're willing to go to Delon Wright and Marvin Bagley versus San Antonio Spags?
So this is one that I'm a little bit conflicted on with Delon Wright, because his numbers have really popped off in the last couple games in a way that I don't feel like is sustainable. Over 55 fantasy points for Delon Wright. And it is something I mentioned on the other show, where I was definitely thinking the other way, where it's a combination of the production of Tyrese Halliburton and also De'Aaron Fox. It's just basically all going to Delon Wright right now, playing 39 minutes. He's not going to be as high of a usage guy. And I guess that's the thing that sort of gives me some hope, is that I think he gets you 40 fantasy points today. I think I could say that with some degree of confidence. confidence. The issue is on a slate this big where you're going to have some pretty good value in lots of ways, lots of guys who can also break a slate potentially at low ownership. My concern is that Delon Wright ends up over-owned and it puts up 40 fantasy points that would normally be okay, but that might not be enough for a GPP. So I think I'm going to hedge a little bit closer towards the field and not go crazy on Delon like I have the last few days, but I really wouldn't argue the other way either because he's been that good. And Bagley too, the usage is there to have an upside. It's just, a matter of, is it reliably going to be there? And I think it's more reliably there if we know for sure that Chimi Metsu is going to be out tonight.
Yeah, I mean, these are two guys that I think sometimes when you look at things, it kind of checks out, but you're somewhat neutral. I think these prices are appealing. I think the ownership is probably a little inflated. They're hovering just north of 20% right now, but I get it. I think there's a range of outcomes that are going to get you there probably around your break even in terms of against the field's leverage. I do think if you want to be very aggressive, Buddy Hield is the guy that no one's really talking about. He's really premium here. You're going to need certainly a ceiling output, but with the way he can shoot, he would be a way if you want to directly leverage against the other Kings. If you think these guys are under-owned, Buddy Hield right now looks like he'd come in sub 10%. So he's going to push, obviously, for major minutes every time with the Kings having nobody left. And I think you go there. They're only a 5-point home dog, 223.5 total. So certainly Bagley is in play. Certainly Wright is in play. Buddy Hield is an aggressive pivot.
Okay. Friends, get access to all the great Awesemo Plus tools and content for nearly every DFS sport out there with an Awesemo Plus weekly pass for $29.95. This includes full access to all the premium content and tools on Awesemo.com, including player projections, ownership projections, our premium Slack channel, lineup builder, and much more. Only looking to play NBA DFS? Then sign up now for our Awesemo Plus NBA weekly package for only $16.95 or $4.95, or our $4.95 weekly NBA Weekly Express package, which gives you full Awesemo Plus access to NBA Showdown and single game contests. Stop guessing, start winning, join Awesemo Plus today. I hear Laffy's voice in my head saying that because it's the ad that plays on every YouTube video I watch. Anyone else?
I know people say that a lot. I have ad block on, so I'm sorry, I guess, for anybody.
I hear that.
but I don't. So I have to do it because I have to watch so many videos throughout the day. I have to jump around to so many things. And frankly, I think I add enough value revenue-wise. I don't need to give them my clicks too. But I would say that, I don't know. I feel like that's a problem people are having out there. And kudos to Laffy. I guess he's basically like the DraftKings girl, Jesse, who's everywhere and penetrating our minds. Yeah,
every channel. She is everywhere.
Laffy is truly, yes, that for Awesemo. Okay, one-on-one. In these battles between stars, which player would you rather have in NBA DFS or prop bets tonight? We've got RJ Hampton has been a player on the rise for Orlando with his last 3 games over 30 minutes and 39 fantasy points. Delon Wright is the more expensive option with 2 recent slate-breaking efforts of his own. Who wins in this one-on-one, RJ or Delon, Ben?
This is a close one. Certainly, I'm going to hedge it a little by saying, it's price specific. If you need the value and you want to save $1,600, I have no problem going to Hampton. I think if I had 2 options, though, I would go with Wright. Everything we just talked about with the Kings, again, it's not to say that he's not in a good spot. The minutes are going to be there and the personnel is lacking so much. And you could say that about the Magic as well. So it's really just, for me, a lineup construction issue. If I'm looking for salary relief, certainly going to RJ Hampton, and you're going to get his 30, 31 minutes and whatnot at 5,200 is more than reasonable to get there. But I think Delon Wright, more often than not, slightly ekes it out.
It's tough because I really like both guys tonight. I think they're both, to me, guys that will be in the mix to be core plays, and certainly at least, with the field on the both of them, if not over it by the time we get to slate lock here. I think I would go to Delon Wright just because I feel a bit more secure in the production being there, and they're just, a little bit less in the way of bodies who are going to take minutes away. Again, they're not going to Kyle Guy. They're not really going to Jamius Ramsey. There's nobody else who's taking minutes away from Delon, where RJ Hampton, all it takes is one of these other guys stepping up a little more. All it takes is a massive Mo Bamba game for RJ Hampton to just get less in the way of rebounds, get a little bit less in the way of scoring. I like RJ Hampton a lot, but I think just in terms of the opportunity and the fact too that, Delon is going to be owned, but probably not as owned as he should be for a guy who just has had these 2 massive games. I think it should be Delon Wright, but both guys going to be probably core parts of what you're doing tonight.
Jason Tatum should see some additional usage tonight in a game without Jaylen Brown. Joel Embiid is currently questionable, but could have low ownership and big upside versus New Orleans if he's in. So who wins in this one-on-one of similarly priced stars, Tatum or Embiid, Spags?
So for this one, to me, I think it's going to be Tatum. And it's what I was talking about earlier with Tatum, where I think there's very much a tournament ceiling for him there, even though that median projection doesn't look that great. Embiid, the benefit will be that if he is questionable, and it does carry mostly up until lock, you're going to find that ownership dropping off of a bit. You still have Jokic on the slate. And I think that's something here with Tatum that, there's no other power forward. Obviously, Giannis is going to be a guy, but there's no power forward at this price point where you're like, this guy is objectively a better play than him. I think Julius Randle's the closest comp, and I still would favor Tatum there. So to me, Tatum's the one that I'd want a little bit more, but Embiid's ownership, being low here going into the lock would be something that I don't think it'd be crazy to get some of him today.
Definitely not crazy, but I would also go with Tatum. And it's just a situation again. Maybe I read too much into these things, but you look at a team like the Sixers. Obviously, they have one goal in mind. It's to win it all. Winning the game against the Pelicans today at home, where they've just been absolutely dominating, I don't think is of great urgency. They play again tomorrow. So there's just a lot of situations where Embiid is slightly managed. Obviously, this whole injury is somewhat management-based with the knee. So I worry a little about how often he's tapping into his ceiling. We know he can get, it's Embiid. What is there to really say? We talked about this yesterday with the MVP race and whatnot. He's amongst them, but I think Tatum will have more opportunities. So even though normally if it was all systems go, I would obviously go Embiid here, you're going to get a situation, the ownership makes it enticing, but I think more often than not, Tatum is the way to go here.
Giannis seems on track to play tonight against a Houston team with barely enough guys to have 5 on the floor. Luka Doncic will be without Kristaps Porzingis yet again against a middling Cleveland defense. Who wins in this one-on-one, Giannis or Luka? Ben?
So I'm going to say Luka, but this is just almost by default. I just have such a hard time looking to Bucks in this situation. They're upwards of 17-point favorite, and that's different than a sizable favorites that we talk about normally, 8, 10, 17. That's serious business. So it's hard to imagine that doesn't come into play. And you look at Dallas, they are a big favorite too. It's 10 points, but they need these games desperately. They are not messing around. We've talked about this last night. Me and Spags both like them, and they're going to roll again tonight. I think Luka will be busy. And again, without Porzingis, it really clears the deck for him to do everything for this team. I don't think that's going to change tonight.
Yeah, I think the issue for me is really the Giannis minutes. I mean, on a median projection level, I would just favor Luka anyway, but I'm with Ben here. I think there's real risk here. You just don't see any fourth quarter run for Giannis. And in that last game, it was a game where Houston kept it competitive for themselves and still ended up losing by 20 points in the fourth quarter. And basically, there would have been, the opposing team had no reason to put anybody else out there. And I would say that's going to be the case again for Milwaukee here, where I find it hard to believe Houston can stay in, regardless of whatever configuration of guys are in. Whereas Luka's playing a Cleveland team that I think surprisingly has been competitive recently in a couple games where, playing against Phoenix the other night in particular, that was one where they went to overtime in a game that I think most people would assume they had no chance to win. I think they're playing with a little bit of fire here down the home stretch, and getting Anderson Varejao in the mix, I'm sure is going to be a game changer for them as well. But I think Cleveland does stay competitive in that game against Dallas tonight because I'm impressed by them down the home stretch and what they're doing. Whereas I think there is absolutely no chance Houston stays alive in that game tonight. And that's got to be a difference maker for guys at high price points.
And now we head to the diamond for biggest bat. Here are some of the top bets and plays on tonight's MLB DFS slate. Which of these top 5 odds getters on OddsShopper do you all think is the best overall bet to hit a home run tonight? We've got Stanton plus 260, Nelson Cruz plus 300, Corey Seager plus 320, Ronald Acuna plus 320, and Rafael Devers plus 325 Spags.
This is one for me. I have to go to Nelson Cruz again. It's been a bummer because I picked him as my home run pick when doing the MLB Deeper Dive show the last 2 days. And I forgot Tyler's producing today, and Tyler has also produced those shows. And he is not a Nelson Cruz fan, and in fact swears that Nelson Cruz point shaved in the Rangers World Series a couple years ago, or I guess now more than a couple years ago. But Nelson Cruz versus a lefty to me is always the pick you have to make. He's been a guy that, unfortunately, it's not a nice 420 ISO that he had since 2019 that it was the other day, but it's down to a 411 ISO against left-handed hitting. And to put that in perspective, that means that he's basically hitting over a double every single time that he gets up to plate against a lefty. That's the equivalency of it all. But I think Nelson Cruz is just a guy who has been amazing versus lefty. He's taken this spot. It's not the warmest day. I'm in Detroit. It's going to be, it looks like 50-degree weather. So that's not the best, but Cruz versus lefty, I think overcomes all. And he's due for me. And if he doesn't get it today, I'll be as mad at him as Tyler is every single day.
I'm going to go with Stanton. He's the favorite. It makes it easier to justify. He's a Yankee. He's been hot 3 straight games with a home run. He's at home, pretty solid over under in the game. I thought you were going to go there. Honestly, I always try, even though I hate baseball, my favorite part about the segment is trying to predict where Spags is going to go before he says it. I did not think Nelson Cruz was going to be answered, but I'm going to go with the favorite here in Stan. I think that he can keep it rolling against Corbin tonight.
Tyler, I think, is in agreement with you, yes?
He's wildly gesturing.
Yeah, he's quite upset behind the glass.
From what I saw. All right, now biggest arm. Which of these top 4 odds getters, 4 or 5? 5? Yes, we have 5.
I don't know. It should be 5. Oh, I think there was one day where we had 4 and I just did whatever, yeah.
Top 5 odds getters on Odd Chopper do you think is the best strikeouts over bet tonight? Is there a good under bet you like? We've got Trevor Rogers over under 7.5 strikeouts, Charlie Morton over under 6.5, Jack Flaherty over under 6.5, Zach Gallen over under 5.5, and Blake Snell over under 6.5 Spags.
This one for me is going to be Trevor Rogers. He is going to be a chalky play on DFS sites tonight, and I think that's very deservedly so. He's going against a Milwaukee team with a 2.9 point implied run total for themselves. 6 guys that strike out above league average, decent cumulative strikeout rate as well. They've been striking out at a 27% clip against lefties this year. And Trevor Rogers is a guy who, to me, for Miami, is what I was hoping Caleb Smith would be for them a few years ago, and then unfortunately kind of fizzled out. But he's at a 34% K rate, a swinging strike rate, and his chase rate this year have also been up to 17% and 33%. So these are really good numbers for a guy who's just not getting the credit that he probably deserves. He's playing against a Milwaukee lineup that's giving up strikeouts to everybody. Even when they get through and get some power, they're still giving up an unbelievable amount of strikeouts each time. So I think he's the best pick today in DFS and for this bet as well.
I'm going to go with Charlie Morton over 6.5 strikeouts. Situation in Atlanta. It's, pretty good favorite, around -150, over under of 8, pretty solid. And then I just look at the Phillies. They've struck out a lot this year. They're 25th in the league, basically 10 a game. So I just look at that. 6.5 is a pretty reasonable line for him. If he wins this game, could go pretty deep. So I'll go over 6.5 for the Braves pitcher.
Good stuff. It is now time for the Dr. Ben Rasa prop bet of the day. Dr. Rasa, you're now at 16-5. John Collins found his way to sneak over the 6.5 rebounds prop line yesterday. You are now over 75% winning currently. How high can you fly?
Well, we're going to find out. That's probably the kiss of death. That's how these things work. Not going to lie. But you know what? It's been a good run. We got there. We survived early foul trouble. That was a killer last night. I thought Collins wasn't going to get there, but he ultimately did. And catching some bounces along the way, we're going to try to push it up over 80% if we can.
That just reminded me of the Office episode where Michael Scott is in, who is it? His boss, David's office or whatever. He goes, "You have no idea how high it can fly." Anyone?
We have no idea how high Ben can fly either. I think as long as the lab coat stays safely tucked away, he can keep winning.
It's right over there. It's true.
Exactly. I did not proof this ahead of time, so bear with me. Here we go. The weekend is afoot. The weekend is afoot, Dr. Ben, and with bars and restaurants opening back up around the nation, the people need some extra spending money now more than ever. And since your betting picks have proven to be the greatest investment this side of Dogcoin or the dowry that a YouTube chatter will have to give Spags to marry me, Kayla Knierim will never need another winner. So Ben, what is your Dr. Ben Rasa prop bet of the day?
So here we go. First thing I'm going to do, chat. Let's pump up the likes. We have a lot of people in here on a Friday. I'm going to ask for some likes. When we get on a good win streak, show some support for us. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell. We really do appreciate it. So 2 things. I had an article posted, and it was Ben Simmons over 11.5 points today. I really like that. But they pulled the line, and it is now 13.5 because of the Embiid news and whatnot. If you got that early, it's one of the many reasons you should get inside the ropes and slack and whatnot. You steal that value. But me being a nice guy and a doctor, I came up with a new prop here because you guys can't get that line. I'm going with Keldon Johnson over 11.5 points tonight. I don't think that the Kings, we've talked about this, they've been a team that I have picked on all year, and the Spurs 5-point road favorites here. They really need the game. And in competitive games, he's logged major minutes. And I think we've seen that lately. Against Utah, they were blown out, and he played, middling in the 20s. He was terrible, 2 for 10, 3 for 10 in those back-to-back games. But he pushed for 38 minutes against Philly, 39 against Boston. I think, I'm not going to say we're going to see upper 30s, but he's going to have an opportunity to certainly play more than 30 minutes tonight in a game that I do think they're going to win. I'm not going to say he's going to be super aggressive, but I look at this line, 11.5. I think it's a little light given the range of outcomes here. So although Ben Simmons was the play, and there's no doubt about that, again, those lines move. That is unavailable. We're going to our backup prop. So we're pushing the envelope here a little, Spags. But Johnson over 11.5 points tonight. You're getting pretty good odds. There's not major juice attached to this. Going to Odd Chopper right now, -113. So this is basically a coin flip. You're really just evaluating this on, what is the chance of success? If you have this pegged over like 54, 55%, and I certainly do, I think you lean over here with Johnson tonight.
Yeah, I think it's a good pick. I have Johnson today for 14.8 projected real life points. And the thing that jumps out to me, he's a guy that I feel like there's some players in the league you think shoot more threes than they actually do. And he's a guy that only shoots a little bit over 2.5 3-pointers per game, but it does seem like it could be one of those random outlier Keldon Johnson games. You're going to get Sacramento, who does give up over 38% shooting from deep, which is one of the worst marks in the league. So there's, I think, a lot of ways here for Johnson to get hot. I think it's a solid line as well. So to me, I am rooting for Dr. Ben to keep it rolling forward one more time, even though I personally would prefer the payouts from auctioning off Kayla's love here for that dowry. But it's either way, whatever gets us going, I think is fine. Prop bet also is fine too.
How much of that did I butcher, by the way?
Oh, a good amount. You were like, we'll never need it again. It's like, no, I think that's exactly the opposite. Is we need the winning because we don't have the dowry yet. But it's fine. It's okay.
I did say that.
It's a pain being a creative genius is really what it is behind the beauty and the magic that Kayla brings to the screen.
I need to proofread these or it's just a disaster. And I read too fast, as we've mentioned before. All right. Best of luck, Dr. Ben.
Thank you.
We now move on to No House Advantage, prop or not. Here are some of No House Advantage's props of the day for key players. Do you like the over or under on them, and how many points would you assign? First up, we've got Kelly Olynyk, over under 1.5 3-pointers made Spags.
I think this is one that looks like one of the better overs according to Awesemo. Earlier in the day, it looked like it was going to be, of course, I didn't save the screen for myself, but it was one of the top ones on the board for Awesemo. It looks like about an 84% hit rate. And this is one that I think gets better if Christian Wood does get ruled out because you see more possessions go to Olynyk. He's a good 3-point shooter. It opens up that way, but this just fits my overall narrative of Kelly Olynyk being undervalued. I think if he's playing today, especially if Wood is out, as I mentioned earlier, he is a play that people will ignore more than they should. And it makes me sad as Kelly Olynyk is a guy that I think is a lot of fun. And, I think is a player who's going to easily beat this 3-point prop today. I'll say as long as he's playing. So I would take the over here. And to me, this looks like a 9 or 10 pointer on No House Advantage.
Yeah. I mean, we have him projected for a full made 3 over this line. And that's, when you're talking about something like that, that's massive. So this is a situation, again, it's more prioritizing where are you going to put this on the card, not what are you going to back. You're definitely backing the over here. And I think it is towards the top.
Okay, then we've got Rudy Gobert over under 14.5 rebounds, Ben.
So again, this is another one that I think has a lot of value, but we're going the other way. We only have him projected. Alex has him just around 11. So that's a massive gap in between what No House Advantage has lined and what the projection is. We have this upwards of 92% going under. So again, you're talking about, it's these percentages, they're obviously all very high. I don't think you need to go straight like, well, 92 is better than 84. Certainly if you have a read with Olynyk, you feel more confident in something like that, you can adjust. But this is another one that's going to be towards the top of your No House Advantage card tonight.
This is one of those that I think maybe surprising to see the number be that high for him. And Rudy Gobert, certainly a great rebounder. I would have him at about 12.5 rebounds today, but there's a lot of ways that, he can definitely hit under 14.5. It's a lofty number. That's like a Clint Capella number. And even that would be lofty for Clint Capella. So that's really the main thing here. I think rebound props, not the sexiest thing in the world, but they have a good chance of going under like that one. And yeah, as Ben was saying, it's you could sort of nickel and dime it if you want, if you have more of a feel like I do, where I like Olynyk more. I think I would prefer that prop, but this one as well for Gobert, probably I'd say a little bit less confidence for me than Olynyk. So I think to me, it feels more like an 8 or 7 pointer.
All right. And finally, we've got Jason Tatum over under 28.5 points Spags.
This is one of those where I think this one is really low for Awesemo, and I'm just making sure I have the numbers right. He has it as a 69%. Actually, no, that's the wrong one. Jason Tatum, points.
Like
sorry, guys. There we go. It's a toss-up. It's a 57% chance hitting the under. There are too many Jason Tatum props available on No House Advantage because they have more props out there than any other site out there. So that's the appeal that you just saw me have to struggle through. But Jason Tatum, I think people always like to play those point props, and this is one to me that it's a fine one. I think I would personally be more inclined to take the over just because I think the under is a little bit I don't know, not high valued enough is what I would say. So Jason Tatum, to me, I would take the over, but this is a thing to keep in mind when playing on No House Advantage is that points props like this one, you may think Jaylen Brown being out makes it a sure thing that he's going to be hitting the over. And I think he will hit the over by a pretty narrow margin potentially, but it's something that people treat differently. So this one is probably for me more of a 3 or a 2 pointer on No House Advantage.
I'd go further. I think one of the things you just mentioned, there's like 10 props just for him. I would pass on this. The line is moved in regular betting up to 29.5. I think there's really no value taking a worse line there. I would lean over if I had to, but to me, this is just a difficult one to peg. I think Tatum falls right around where these sites have it lined. So with so many other options out there, I think you're better letting this one go and looking for other spots.
Okay. And as always, don't forget to play on No House Advantage, our sponsor, who is taking a different spin on daily fantasy sports. The No House Advantage app. Oh no. I tried copy and pasting.
We're all having issues tech.
By offering player prop contests across the NBA, MLB, NFL, and PGA for cash prizes. This exclusively peer-to-peer fantasy sports platform levels the playing field and makes it easier for you to win real cash compared with your traditional DFS sites. The best part is you can join for free today. Just download the No House Advantage app and use promo code Awesemo to receive a deposit bonus of up to $20 for new signups. Beat your friends, not the house. Win big with player props today. I should have that in my memory by now, but oh well.
And in your heart, I'd say too.
That too, yes. It is time for Good Dog, Bad Dog. Tyler, do we have sound or no?
Oh, there it is.
Wow. Tyler's dogs are ready.
Who let Tyler's dogs out? All right. In real life, there is no such thing as a bad dog. And betting at DFS, there are a lot of underdogs who may have no chance in their game. So who's a good dog to target tonight and who's a bad one? Ben, hit us with your good dog.
So there's a lot of big dogs here that I don't like at all. I'm going to go to the best game on the board. I think the Nuggets try to make a statement tonight. I think that's a very competitive game. Utah is absolutely deadly at home, so I know what I'm getting myself into here. But you know what? The Nuggets, this is a potential, we could see this in the playoffs. Certainly two teams buying per position. I think the Nuggets go into Utah tonight as a 4-point dog, and they give them certainly a game. So I would take the points there, and I don't even mind sprinkling on that money line.
My good dog's going to be Cleveland, and we talked about it earlier. And I think, seeing a 10-point spread against Cleveland certainly gives you some cause for concern. I think wouldn't be shocking to see that be a little higher, but I'm just a believer in what Cleveland's doing right now. And I might just be a fool here because honestly, I'm going against my own data too, where I do have them projected pretty poorly based on their per 100 possession numbers. But I do like what Sexton is showing in this court time without Garland. I think Chetty Osman's been capable for the most part. Kevin Love has shown some upside. Like, these guys are doing something out there. I don't know if it's viable. I don't know if that was just, kind of a 2 games here of them playing above their heads, but I think they can hang in there versus an undermanned Dallas team. So I would take them to cover tonight.
All right, Spags, hit us with your bad dog.
So this is going to be one thing where, for DFS or whatever, and people in the chat were asking best value plays, like play Anthony Lamb tonight. I think he's a guy that people won't realize he's doing something different. He's shooting more 3-pointers in that game by a pretty wide margin. And I think that's going to be something he's going to do again tonight versus Milwaukee. But there is just no chance Houston stays in this game. Like, they can fight as hard as they want. I want them to fight as hard as they can because I actually do enjoy watching these guys. I think they are scrappers too, who are doing the best in a very crappy situation for them where the team is basically given up, obviously, but that won't stop Kelly Olynyk and guys like Anthony Lamb from continuing to try. KJ Martin as well. So I think those guys don't cover tonight and don't have a shot in hell of covering, but boy, will I be rooting for them to give it their best shot.
Yeah, I mean, that's a game that I'm not going to lay 17 points even with the Bucks against that team, but I would there's no chance I would take 17 points with the Rockets. That's a stay away. I'm actually going to have some fun, Spags. I'm going against you here. I think the Mavericks roll the Cavs tonight, and it's just a simple situation. I'm really weighing maybe too heavily that some of these teams that are looking for position, particularly the Mavericks, obviously in this spot, they need to clamp down. And we saw it last night. I think they keep that going. I think Luka brings his A game tonight, and they kind of win going away against the Cavs team that obviously doesn't have much going on.
All right, 2 segments, 2 minutes. But before we do, a special flash giveaway for all of you watching today. We are giving away a month of Awesemo Plus to 2 lucky winners. All you have to do is subscribe to our Side Action HQ YouTube channel and comment on the latest video with your Twitter handle or Awesemo Plus username for a chance to win. So again, subscribe to the Side Action HQ YouTube channel, comment on the latest video with your Twitter handle or Awesemo Plus username for your chance to win a month of Awesemo Plus. Now for make or break. Which player or game currently looks like a make or break spot to you on tonight's slate, Ben?
I mean, the answer to this definitely is, even though it's a horrible game, is the Rockets game. There's going to be basically every lineup is going to have 1, 2, 3 up, many Rockets in there. And if you're able to get that game right, whether you use a buck or not, it's going to go a long way. So that's where the clear value is on the slate tonight. And although it's a terrible game, Houston is going to determine the outcome of this slate.
Yeah, same thing for me. It'll be the desecrated carcass of the Houston Rockets, I think, is really the main place you have to be tonight. There's going to be value there, whatever configuration is left. And in particular, I'll say it one more time here. I'm going to dig my heels in on this one so we can all have something to hopefully remember for good or bad come Monday. But Kelly Olynyk, I think if he's playing tonight is in whatever configuration, but especially if there is no Christian Wood, is going to be a player who breaks the slate tonight. And it just baffles me that people have not keyed in on it yet because he's been one of the more fun players to watch. And I always enjoy these guys finding their renaissance, finding their sea legs at whatever point in their careers they do. And if anybody's been a long-time Awesemo fan, they can remember one horrific story I told about Kelly Olynyk years and years ago that will never repeat again on the channel. But if you do know that, but boy, I just reminded you of something that'll give you even more faith in Kelly Olynyk.
All right. And Spags, last but not least, give us your fade of the day.
Fade of the day for me. It's the ownership is going to be moving around a lot, but I think it's going to be Terry Rozier for me. He's going to be very owned on FanDuel. That price tag looks fine on there, but I think he's just a guy that the ceiling is definitely getting capped by having LaMelo Ball back in the mix, having PJ Washington back in the mix. And you're not paying the steep price tag you are on DraftKings, but I just think he's being overvalued just because the price fits. And this is a slate to me where you get some different configurations that are going to look a lot better without Terry Rozier. So that'd be my fade for FanDuel specifically.
For me, it's, this is more on the betting side, the Timberwolves Heat game. And even we talked about if those guys are ruled in, I have no interest, but that's a game. I look at the spread. I really have no interest in backing the Timberwolves, and I'm not going to mess with the Heat, particularly because we don't know the personnel just yet. So that's one I could do without on the slate.
Awesome stuff from you both. Thanks to Ben. Thanks to Spags. That's going to do it for us on the tip-off this week. We'll be back with you next week at 4 p.m. Eastern. Do not forget to hit that like button and subscribe. The Deeper Dive and Live Before Lock are coming your way next on the same stream. Don't go anywhere. I'm Kayla Knierim. We'll see you next week.
going on, everybody? Welcome to the Awesemo.com NBA Deeper Dive presented by Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports. Getting it going a little bit earlier today. Give ourselves some extra time, breakdown a 10-gamer, and I would assume 45 minutes of the hour and 15 will be attributed to the Houston Rockets tonight as 16.5-point road dogs against the Milwaukee Bucks. I'm Dave Loughran on Twitter at Laffy_D. Hit me up, LOUGHY_D. And follow my man Adam Scherer at ShipMyMoney DFS. Having some trouble with Twitter, trying to censor his mean and aggressive tweets today, I saw.
Yeah, the new Twitter "Are you sure you want to be mean" thing kicked in for the first time today, and I was sure. I still tweeted
So,
it.
so what was your comment? You could censor it if you want.
Someone said that someone was talking shit to me, and then someone else said that person wouldn't play me head to head, and he said something about that I wouldn't play him, and I was like, cuss word, doesn't know who he's talking to. And Twitter's like, "Are you sure you want to say that?" And I said, "Yes, I am."
Yeah. But you sent it, you just barreled straight through that warning.
Yeah, I just read it real quick. Like, why is it asking me this? Of course I do.
Love to see it. Also, love to see all of you guys here as well to close out the work week. We've got a fun one ahead of us. Like I said, Houston, I mean, who knows if Milwaukee and Budenholzer sits players? I have a specific lean towards that and a nice betting lean towards that from some player props as well. We'll get to that game in a little while. And just a bunch of other games with a ton of injured players, Orlando being one of them, New Orleans being without Brandon Ingram. Steven Adams is doubtful. Philadelphia 76ers basically have the East locked up. They have a 98% chance to win the East. So do we see Doc start to really take his foot off the gas as we've already seen? Those are just a few question marks going into tonight's slate, Adam.
Yeah, I think it's a really weird slate. I kind of, if for anyone that read the deep dive, like I kind of got into it when I talked about Nikola Jokic in particular, but it's a weird slate in that recently we've had a lot of slates where like there's a game with a 245 total and there's a couple games at like 240, and it's just like a really high scoring slate with a lot of really appealing matchups. Tonight, even though there's 10 games, there's not that many appealing games in terms of, one, the highest total in the slate's like 233, which is way lower than we've seen recently. But there's also just a lot of games with blowout risk. And so the likelihood of there being a game that really shoots out and is competitive is a lot lower tonight, I think, than it is on normal slates. There's a lot of kind of moving parts, like you said, with the Sixers, with injuries, the Bucks potentially resting guys late. So we'll see, but I think it's kind of a unique slate.
We're going to hit on all of that over the next hour and 10 minutes. And I can assure you, one thing YouTube doesn't do, of the many things they do that piss me off, they don't ask you if you want to like this video after you try to like this video. Very simple process. Make this your routine as you walk in the virtual door. Hit that thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet, because that is the best way to help us keep growing the channel, keep putting out free content each and every day. Hopefully content that you guys thoroughly enjoy and has helped you along the way. So hammer that thumbs up, hit the subscribe and the notification bell if you want to know when everything new is going to drop. And we dive into it. The New Orleans Pelicans and Philadelphia 76ers. 8-point spread here. Sixers laying 8 at home, 226.5 total. We'll start with the Pels. Last time these two teams faced, the Sixers were totally healthy. They came out to the Smoothie King Center and they got beat. Now, they were huge favorites there. I actually called the Pelicans outright in that game on a show with our buddy Eitan Shander, who's now a part of Awesemo. I don't see that going the same way today, Adam. I think the Sixers have a clear path to just run the rest of the season out with pretty easy wins against underwhelming teams. And the biggest concern I have, we'll get to it, is Doc Rivers. What's he going to do with these starters? But more importantly, on New Orleans, what are we going to do with Zion Williamson, with Brandon Ingram out and Steven Adams trending out as well?
Yeah, so Zion, I think, is one of the more interesting spots on the slate, because if we assume Joel Embiid plays, and either way, it's a tough spot, but if Embiid plays, it gets even worse. It's a really, really difficult matchup for Zion, but his ceiling is also higher tonight than it normally is because Brandon Ingram's not playing for the Pelicans. And so you see, like, if you look at Williamson playing without Ingram this year, his usage rate goes up, his assist percentage goes up, his rebounding percentage goes up. Even if you account for some of those minutes being against second unit opponents, it's still, he benefits across the board. So the ceiling is higher, but the problem you run into is that not only are the Sixers one of the most efficient defensive teams in the league, but they're particularly good defending the paint. They've allowed the fourth fewest points in the paint over the last month. Zion leads the league in field goal attempts within 5 feet of the rim by like 5 field goal attempts per game ahead of Giannis Antetokounmpo, who is someone who notably gets made fun of for his like only being able to score around the rim. Zion averages more than like 5 field goal attempts per game, more than Giannis within 5 feet of the basket. So he needs to score in the paint. He's very good at it, but he needs to.
He crushed the Sixers last time they faced each other too, and did a lot of it around the basket, surprisingly.
Right. Yeah. Like he's very, very good. He's capable of it, but it's clearly not a matchup that makes it particularly likely that it happens. There's a lot of pay up options on the slate in general, but also at power forward. So I think that Zion's interesting in tournaments just because he is getting pretty low ownership. Right now, he's about 7.5% on DraftKings. His usage rate, his assist percentage, his rebounding percentage all go up when he's playing without Ingram. So I think the ceiling is really high. I think as long as the ownership stays as low as it is, he's interesting, but it is a really tough matchup.
What about the remaining options from New Orleans? Lonzo Ball. Do we go back and look towards somebody like Willie Hernan Gomez, assuming that Steven Adams doesn't play? He's played, decent, pretty solid minutes in these spots, but this matchup, again, I don't like predicting foul trouble because it can come from anywhere, and sometimes it doesn't happen at all. But going up against a formidable Joel Embiid, assuming he's active, questionable right now, could get a little bit ugly for him. So would you say there are any key spots for the Pels today, or does Brandon Ingram and Steven Adams' absence not actually mean as much as it normally would in this specific spot?
I think it's still relevant for tournaments. Like you look at Hernan Gomez, and right now we have him projected for like 1.5% ownership on DraftKings. On a lot of slates, this would be one of the highest owned guys. But because this slate is so unique, there's a lot of really, really cheap value available that we'll get to. Hernan Gomez just really isn't getting that much ownership, and it is a risky spot. It's a tough matchup, and you have to deal potentially with defending Joel Embiid, assuming Embiid's active. So there's a lot of downside there, but Hernan Gomez has started 6 games this year. He's averaged 26 minutes per game and 1.1 DraftKings points per minute. He's 5K on DraftKings. He's 4,900 on Fanduel. There's very obviously still upside there despite the tough matchup. He probably should be higher than 1% owned, and so that's a spot to pay attention to. But you also can look to the wings here. You have Najee Marshall at 4,100 on DraftKings, 4,300 on Fanduel, James Johnson sub 4K on both sites. These guys should get more minutes with Brandon Ingram out. I'm assuming that Marshall's going to start. He's averaged about 0.93 DraftKings points per minute with Zion on the floor and Ingram off this year. James Johnson most likely plays 24 to 26 minutes at least off the bench, potential to play more if he's playing well. Both of these guys I think look like reasonable values, but again, there's a million different spots you can go to for value tonight. So in terms of priorities, as far as like guys that I'm very confident I would be just jamming into a lot of lineups, I don't think there's anything from the Pelicans, but I do think there's a lot of spots you can look to in tournaments that are relatively low owned.
On the Philly side, like I said, I really do have some legitimate concern. Well, I think they're legitimate. Otherwise, they would be irrational fears, Adam. But in this case, Joel Embiid's already coming into this game questionable with a left knee injury recovery. Now, consider this much. Yeah. With left knee injury recovery. When I hear something like that, that spooks me, okay? Because even if he plays, if this game by any standard gets even out of control a little bit, or similar to what we saw against the Bulls, San Antonio, where it was close the whole time and he played 30 minutes in regulation, ended up playing the full overtime period, I think you could see less minutes for him here and the rest of this team. If you look at what we've seen from the Sixers recently in games where they've been big favorites, they're seeing much, much more limited minutes than they would have earlier in the year. 3, 4, 5 fewer minutes. Usually in blowouts, they were at least getting around 30. Now you're talking 25, 26 from Embiid in these type of spots. And now you get the Q tag. So are you willing to say, you know what, I'll go to some Joel Embiid. I'll take the shot. I'll take the risk in a good matchup, especially if Steven Adams, who is their defensive anchor, ends up sitting, just given how low his ownership is right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of it comes down to ownership here because so on DraftKings, Embiid is basically the same price as Nikola Jokic, who we'll talk about later, but I think in a good spot despite a tough matchup. But again, it kind of comes back to the slate being weird. Like all of these games, or pretty much all of these games, have at least one of massive blowout risk or a slow-paced game. This game is likely to be fast-paced. The Pelicans are top 5 in pace over the last month, but there's plenty of blowout risk because we know the Sixers are better than the Pelicans, and the Pelicans are playing without Ingram and most likely Adams. But right now we only have Embiid projected for like 4.5% ownership on DraftKings. He's expensive, but there's a ton of value today, so it's not going to be that hard to find the salary. I think that as long as the ownership is low and assuming Embiid plays, he's worth a look. On FanDuel, he's really cheap. He's like 9,600, so you're getting like an $1,800 discount or $1,600 discount off of Nikola Jokic. And if Adams is out, it is a really good spot. So on the one hand, there is blowout risk, but also we've seen the Sixers in blowouts in like 5 of their last 7 games. So salaries have kind of come down across the board for this team to account for that. And I think it makes it so, yeah, there is still risk, but now you're at least getting that appropriate price tags for that risk.
Yeah, it's a fair point. I mean, if you're rostering Embiid today, he's getting virtually no ownership. The matchup doesn't scare you, right? Especially with Adams out. Even if he was in, I don't think you'd be too concerned about this. Embiid did shoot miserably in this same spot against New Orleans, but that's one game. I'm hardly concerned about that. There is a ceiling here. It's just my issue is, even if it's close, does he only play 30 minutes? We'll see.
Right. And I think that's a fair concern too, because like if you look across positions, not only at this price point do you have to compare, and I'm talking specifically about DraftKings right now, where he's $10,700. Not only do you have to compare him to Jokic, you have to compare him to Doncic, you have to compare him to Giannis, you have to compare him to Tatum, Randall, Zion, Davis, like Towns, Lillard, Vooch. There's still a ton of guys to pay up for here. So while there is a lot of value, while it's not going to be tough to go stars and scrubs tonight, he does still have to beat all those guys who are likely, even in a competitive game, to play a few more minutes than him.
Sure. Yeah, and the Pels, how many get it? Is it still 10 get into the play-in round, or did they move it to is it still 10?
Yeah, it's 10, and I don't remember the exact rules, but yeah, it's 10, and then it plays down to 8.
All right. The Pels are sitting in 10th right now, 1 game ahead of the Kings. So there is some incentive to win this game right now. What else for Philly, if anything?
I think that the pricing on the rest of their starters, especially on DraftKings, is pretty appealing. Like Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris are both at price points that are towards the bottom end of their normal salary ranges. And I think that's, again, just because the playing time has been down recently because they've been in so many blowouts. The Pelicans are actually top 5 in defensive rating over the last month, but they're top 5 in pace as well. Ben Simmons is pretty cheap. Tobias Harris is cheap. Sorry.
You all right?
Where swallowed wrong.
That happens to you more often than not, actually. This is a common occurrence.
I talk fast, and I just drank coffee.
We're good now. Back on track.
Yeah, where I'm actually interested in the pricing on DraftKings, and again, it's just secondary options because there's so many value plays. But Seth Curry is 4,400, and Danny Green is 4K. The Pelicans defensively force teams to shoot threes. They've allowed the 4th most 3-point attempts per game this year. They've allowed the 4th highest 3-point percentage. Seth Curry averages about 4.9 3-point attempts per game. Danny Green's over 6. Seth Curry shoots 44%. Danny Green shoots 40. I think these are both guys that probably go a little bit overlooked, but if this game were competitive, I think they're going to get a lot of open looks.
All right. Last question I'll ask you for this game. We'll move on. Who do you think gets the majority of run or benefits most from Ingram's absence?
Najee Marshall and James Johnson.
Okay. Now, with that in mind, which one of them do you like more?
I like Marshall a little bit more. I think they're pretty comparable. Like, I think Marshall is likely to play like 30 minutes or so. I think on average you get 24 to 26 from James Johnson, but they both produce at a similar rate. And I think to some extent, at least, there's going to be a hot hand situation here where, like, if Johnson's playing well, he can play 30 minutes too. So, and Johnson's a little bit cheaper. So I think they're very similar. I feel a little bit better about Marshall if salary doesn't matter, but I don't feel like you should be forcing in Marshall over Johnson and giving something else up either.
Okay. Let's talk about Boston and Chicago then. Boston, no Jaylen Brown today. They come into this game, though, 4-point favorites, 224.5 total. Robert Williams is questionable. Tristan Thompson probable to play. Jason Tatum in games without Jaylen Brown this season overall has been pretty good. If you were to look it up on StatMuse, he's put up, as far as actual points go, 27, 38, 15, 44, 34, 31, 23, 34. So you've seen some big games there, some monster 30, 10, 40, 10 double-doubles. Do we go back to Tatum today, though, at this price point when you've got a 10-game slate? And like you already said when we were talking about Embiid, a lot of really quality top-tier options. You're muted.
I still think Tatum's pretty interesting here because we only have him projected for 6% ownership on DraftKings. And while the matchup's not great, the Bulls aren't a fast-paced team. They're in the bottom 10 in pace over the last month. They're 11th in defensive rating. Jason Tatum's got a 32% usage rate in the games he's played with Kemba and without Jaylen Brown this year. He's averaged like 1.4 DraftKings points per minute. He's averaged 37 minutes per game. We saw him in his last game against Orlando. He put up 50 in 3 quarters. Like if you go back and look, it's like, oh, he had a mediocre game for his salary. He did all of that in 3 quarters, and the Celtics blew out the Magic. He didn't have to play in the 4th. He was 4% owned on that slate and was well on his way to a 60-plus fantasy point game. I think it is kind of going overlooked how good Jason Tatum is, and the fact that he's getting more field goal attempts, he's getting more assist opportunities without Jaylen Brown. So you can expect big minutes. You can expect a lot of production. I think that, again, if you're playing cash, you probably just, pay up for someone other than Tatum. But in tournaments, I think he should be more than 5 or 6% owned.
What about the rest of Boston I guess we could talk about whether Robert Williams is in or out. I don't really know how much anyone benefits though, because Thompson's price has come up pretty considerably. Evan Fournier's 54 on DraftKings, over on Fanduel. If you want to get to Evan Fournier, I'm not necessarily sure why you'd be looking to do that. But look, all of these guys outside of Jaylen Brown, and he's really not even getting many ownership at all. Aggregate ownership on Boston is super low right now.
Yeah, and I think for the most part it should be. I mean, this game, like I said, the Bulls are a decent team defensively. They're not a fast-paced team. I think Fournier's salary on DraftKings is okay, but he would stand out more on other slates where we didn't have a ton of like $3,500 guys to throw darts at. He has shot well for the last couple of games, and the only reason I even mentioned that is, maybe he's actually recovered from COVID and he's not having blurred vision and trying to play NBA games anymore. That's something that seems like it would help. But, and he played, if the game against Orlando had been competitive, I think you were getting 33 or 34 minutes from Fournier. So I still think he has some upside on DraftKings, but wouldn't say he's a priority. With Tristan Thompson probable, I think it's really tough to prioritize Robert Williams. If Williams were out, I still think it would be tough to prioritize Thompson because, like you said, the salaries come up. Kemba Walker, we know he has a high ceiling, but point guard today has both guys that you can pay up for and guys that you can pay like $3,500 for. So I think it's tough to get there. I agree that the ownership on Boston should be low when you just think in terms of priorities on the slate and chances of success. I do think, though, that Jason Tatum just gives you a really high ceiling that seems like it's not really being appreciated.
Oh, my God. Zion Williamson out indefinitely with fractured finger. Hit the Sixers before that goes off the board right now. If you're trying to get – I'm going to see if I can do that right now while we're talking. It's got to disappear.
I'm kind of glad that happened because I had a feeling I was going to get more Zion than I wanted tonight.
Yeah, well – he's out indefinitely. That changes everything. Okay, and we are in. Look at that.
Did they just find out he broke his finger?
What's that?
Did they just find out he broke his finger?
I guess.
I've broken fingers before. I knew it when it happened.
All I know is that this went from 9 to 8.5, and then
it was 9 when I started writing the deep dive this morning. It was 7.5 when I refreshed before the show.
I saw it at 7.5 or 8.5 when I refreshed 30 minutes before the show. Maybe it changed a bit, but we'll see. Maybe it was baked in already. But I guess the whole thing here is if Joel Embiid ends up sitting, right? But even so, even if Joel Embiid's out this game, it still feels like okay, there it goes. It's off. Yep, it's off. So we had about a minute there. That's not bad. We had about a minute to hit that. Yeah, that's good time. That's actually a decent amount of time to make that happen. So can we revisit this? We're going to have to speed through a couple games that we don't really like, but let's close out Boston, Chicago, and then go back to this because that's huge news there with Zion out. Vooch coming off a big game. Zach LaVine only played 27 minutes yesterday in his return from that COVID-related absence. Is there anything at all from Chicago that you want to get to today?
Not much. I think the only thing really worth mentioning is that Vooch is $1,400 less expensive on FanDuel than he is on DraftKings. I think that's a pretty good price there. He was really only on pace to play 33 or 34 minutes yesterday, even if the game had been competitive through the end, which is a little bit disappointing because he had been playing 36 or 37 minutes in some recent games. But even if you get 33 or 34, he's averaged almost 1.5 fantasy points per minute with LaVine in this year. It's not a bad matchup here against Boston, I don't think. And at $9K, that's a pretty reasonable salary. At 10-4 on DraftKings, I think it's a lot more difficult to get to.
All right. So we were already talking about guys like James Johnson, Najee Marshall with Ingram out. James Johnson's going to play a lot of minutes now.
Yeah, he has to. And I think so. My expectation was that you were going to see Najee Marshall start in place of Ingram, and then you were going to see Johnson pick up the minutes behind Zion and probably pick up some minutes behind Marshall. Now my expectation is that you get a starting lineup of Ball, Bledsoe, Marshall, Johnson, and Hernan Gomez. Johnson probably plays 30-plus minutes. He's averaged 0.83 DraftKings points per minute since joining the Pelicans. Marshall probably plays like 33 or 34 minutes now. Nickeil Alexander-Walker is questionable. If he's still 6,400 on DraftKings, so I don't think he's a play even if he's in. But if he's out, it makes him even more shorthanded, and it makes it to the point where like Kyra Lewis could potentially play 26 minutes or something, like because he's going to back up. I mean, you have Ball, you have Bledsoe. You assume Ball's going to play like 36 minutes. Bledsoe probably plays like 32 or something. Lewis is probably going to play all those minutes, but they could just run a 3-guard lineup basically where Lewis gets more minutes as well. So if Nickeil Alexander-Walker is out and you're playing large field tournaments, maybe get a little bit of Kyra Lewis. But really, I think it's just James Johnson and Najee Marshall get locked in even more as better values because the minutes are there and you're taking Zion's usage and rebounding and the assist percentage out of this lineup. You already don't have Steven Adams grabbing rebounds either. So, and you're taking Ingram out. So there's a lot of, and Josh Hart's not playing. So like, there's a lot of rebounds to go around. Also Lonzo, if this game's close, Lonzo just like triple doubles, right?
He's got to, because it's not close if he's not, right? I mean, it's how it kind of feels. Another thing, Willie Hernan Gomez has played 124 minutes with Zion, Ingram, and Adams out the floor. He's well over a 1.25 fantasy point per minute guy in this situation.
Yeah, Hernan Gomez is really, really interesting here because the matchup is terrifying, especially if Embiid's in. Zion and Ingram being out makes me think the Sixers just say, yeah, screw it, Embiid's not playing. But if Embiid's in, the matchup is scary. But with Zion out too, it takes out, or it lowers the likelihood that the Pelicans run small lineups. Not that it was particularly likely against Embiid and Dwight Howard anyway, but you pretty much have Hernan Gomez and Jackson Hayes now without Zion. So it, to some extent, solidifies Hernan Gomez's minutes. It definitely solidifies his production because now you have the two highest usage guys on the team out. Hernan Gomez will take some shots. You have two of the leading rebounders out. I think he looks better with Zion out. And I really think, Lonzo's expensive enough where I still wouldn't call him a priority, but I think the ceiling for Lonzo Ball gets a lot higher here because we know he's a really good rebounder. And one thing we've talked about with the Pelicans all season long is that the fantasy production for guys like Lonzo and Bledsoe kind of gets hidden because everyone on this team can rebound. Josh Hart rebounds, Zion rebounds, Ingram rebounds. These guys all get assists. Now you're taking all three of those guys out. There's a lot, plus Steven Adams. There's a lot of rebounds here that Lonzo can grab. There's a lot of rebounds that Eric Bledsoe can grab. There's a lot of assists available for these guys. So I still think from a median standpoint, especially when you factor in the potential for blowout, they're probably a little bit overpriced. But I think the ceiling is really, really high for Lonzo in particular now.
Yeah, I think so too. This just got to be an insane slate based on one piece of news. And this is essentially what we get every single night, Adam, at some point. At least we got this at the beginning of the show, right?
Yeah. And for what it's worth, Lonzo has only played 68 minutes without either one of Williamson or Ingram on the floor this year. He only has a 7.9% rebound percentage, but I'm not really concerned about that because, again, it's only 68 minutes, and that's something that fluctuates pretty quickly. But 26% usage is something that stabilizes relatively fast. 28% assist percentage, makes sense. So I do think that Lonzo's ceiling is just really, really high now.
So do I. I think Hernan Gomez has a really high ceiling here too if he can stay out of foul trouble.
Oh, I agree completely. Like the matchup is the only thing that scares me. So the other thing is center tonight is just weird. Like you have the guys at the top, like Jokic, maybe Embiid. You have Mo Bamba, who kind of just seems like a can't miss guy with Wendell Carter Jr. out. But at the same time, Bamba's going to just soak up so much ownership, especially this time of the year. Like if you're paying attention to ownership in NBA DFS, it's very, very, very concentrated because you have less casuals playing. You have a lot of people that know what they're doing. You're going to see so much ownership going to Bamba. It's going to kind of just force down Willie Hernangomez, especially in smaller field stuff, especially in higher stake stuff. So you're kind of going to get that like risk reward that you want. Yeah, you're taking on risk because he has a tough matchup, but we know this guy produces at a high rate, and his rate probably goes up even more without Zion.
Agreed. Benjamin Riley with the super chat says, "Happy Friday, gents." Yeah, you too, man. Gonna have some drinks, maybe eat some good food after today's show. What do you say, Adam?
Yeah, or before, either one.
Or before. Yeah, that's not me. That's all you. Another week in the books. Let's hammer it home tonight. Let's do it, man. Let's make it happen. Orlando and Charlotte. Orlando Magic are coming into Charlotte as 7.5-point dogs, 215.5 total. No Terrence Ross, no Wendell Carter Jr., no Okeke, no Ennis, no Michael Carter Williams. All of them are out for Orlando. That means that Mo Bamba, once again, is one of the options who's going to get a lot of run. And I'll tell you what, I know this seems like a high number. I actually like over 11.5 rebounds. That the under is actually juiced here. Over is -105. Hornets are bottom 4 in rebound rate this season. They've allowed the second most boards to centers, and they've got an undersized front. Even Bismack Biyombo is not exactly a hulking center. The guy's 6'9", or PJ Washington, whoever is out there. And Bamba's a 13.2 rebound per 36 guy. So I actually like him, a guy who has 15 boards in back-to-back games, assuming he gets the minutes and nothing squirrely happens there with the rotation, to put up another solid effort on the board specifically. I want to start with him, though, from a DFS perspective, Adam, because the ownership is, I want to say, rightfully high on Mo Bamba. He's just been fantastic.
Yeah, it's one of those spots where it kind of just like sums up May NBA. It seems really weird, but $6,100 Mo Bamba on DraftKings, $6,900 Mo Bamba on Fanduel is one of the best plays on the slate. This is a guy who a month ago, it was just like, yeah, what a terrible draft pick the Magic made a few years ago. They're trading for Wendell Carter Jr. and Mo Bamba's time is done, whatever. Since that trade, he's averaged 1.33 DraftKings points per minute in 20.2 minutes per game. Recently, he's played even more. Even when Wendell Carter Jr. was active, he was stealing minutes. You were getting like a 25-23 split. And then now you have Carter out. Bamba started last game against the Celtics. The Magic got destroyed. You still got 30 minutes from Bamba, who played about 5 minutes in garbage time in the fourth quarter. So it kind of reinforces that the Magic are shorthanded, and Bamba's probably going to get his one way or the other. If that game had been competitive, I think he plays a couple more minutes, but I think it's pretty safe, barring foul trouble or injury, to expect 30 to 32 minutes from Bamba, who again is averaging 1.33 DraftKings points per minute since Vooch was traded. This is someone averaging like the same fantasy points per minute as Bradley Beal, basically playing 30 to 32 minutes at $6,100. I just don't really know how to get away from him outside of the fact he's going to be really popular. And as the bigger the tournament you're playing, the more you should be factoring in just raw ownership and saying like, okay, I think Bamba's a really good play, but if he fails, 60% of the field loses. But still, like, he's just very clearly one of the top plays tonight.
Mr. Bubble says Lonzo over 5.5 rebounds. Lofty gone over that in the last 6 games. Now all these people out. Come on, lock it in. If you can find it where it's not off the board, sure, but I haven't seen it anywhere. It disappeared where I was looking. So, if it's still up there, I have no problem taking the over on pretty much any Alonzo prop without even looking at them. If they haven't pulled from earlier today with Zion in.
Yeah, if you can still get 5 and change rebounds from Lonzo, just take it.
Yeah, I just don't know where you will. If you can, let us all know, please. That'd be great. Anything else for Orlando, looking at a team that's wildly shorthanded once again and has been getting good games from guys like RJ Hampton?
I think that Bamba's the only real priority, but I do think Mo Wagner still deserves a look. He was really low owned last slate, and I think that he'll probably be low owned again tonight just because there's so many options to look to. He only played 26 minutes against the Celtics, which was really surprising because he had played 34 minutes 2 games before that. He played 41 the game before. Then they were even more shorthanded without Carter, and he only played about 26 minutes. But the thing that stood out to me was he was getting the backup center minutes behind Mo Bamba, which I think is really important because his rebounding percentage with Orlando has been down because he's been playing the 4. He's only averaged about 0.8 DraftKings points per minute with the Magic compared to 0.94 DraftKings points per minute for his career. I think you see that increase now that he's getting backup center minutes. I think that he plays 30 plus minutes tonight. He's priced, he's more expensive, but I still think that there's upside there. RJ Hampton, kind of in the same boat. You've gotten 30-plus minutes 3 games in a row. He's about a 0.9 fantasy point per minute guy without Carter Williams since the trades. He's getting, like, he's kind of gotten fluky minutes the last couple of games where in one game, Orlando's second unit played the entire fourth quarter. In the next game, he played garbage time. But at the same time, he plays multiple positions. He's young. He's one of the guys the Magic want to see play more. So I think that he kind of just finds a way to 30-plus minutes in most games. The price tags come up. He's not a priority, but he's still worth a look. And then I guess the last spot that is worth a mention, but on this slate, there's enough value. It probably doesn't matter too much. Is your new doppelganger, Ignas Brazdeikis. Only 3K.
Ralph Bass.
Only 3K. Played 30 minutes last game. Scored like 14 fantasy points. Was really, really annoying. But probably plays 28 to 30 minutes. Again, just a guy that I don't think is really worth a look in smaller field stuff. You can find $3K or $3,300 guys that are relatively low owned that project better. But in the large field stuff where he's going to be like 2-3% owned and you really need to beat, like 20,000 people. I think the minutes are there. Who knows what he does with the production because he's never been a very productive player.
Is Zion out tonight?
What?
Every like 30 seconds, there's a new in caps Zion out in chat.
In chat.
Yeah. And then I think a lot of people don't know that they're not live right now. So they're watching from like 15 minutes ago.
Right.
When we were talking about him the first time. No, we know Zion's out. We actually covered all of that, so we got you. Good to go. Charlotte, LaMelo Ball, Terry Rozier, very cheap. He is very cheap on FanDuel once again. No Bridges. Hayward obviously out. Devontae Graham out. Cody Martin out. So very well, same situation as yesterday. How do we proceed?
I think that it's a spot where no one player. So Terry Rozier on FanDuel stands out. 6,200 is just an absurd price tag. He should play around 36 minutes. He's a fantasy point per minute guy. Plug him in at shooting guard on FanDuel. But outside of that, I wouldn't say anyone's like a priority, but I think that there's still spots you can go to for upside. LaMelo Ball, the salaries come up. It makes him riskier. It makes him less likely to succeed, but he does still have a pretty high ceiling for that price point. PJ Washington played about 33 minutes and change in the last game. Didn't play his final stint because of garbage time. I think if this game's close, you get 36 plus minutes from him. He's over a fantasy point per minute without Gordon Hayward this year. Only 6,600 on FanDuel, 7K on DraftKings. I think he's a reasonable option. Not much else beyond that. Malik Monk did play 31 minutes yesterday. He played really, really well. He's certainly someone that gives you a ceiling in tournaments at 4,500, but you have to keep in mind that his playing time is volatile and his production is volatile because he's a pretty scoring dependent player. If he's not shooting well, you could see him play instead of 31 minutes, play like 26 minutes with Wanamaker playing 24 instead of 20, something like that. So he's a very risky option, but he does give you a ceiling.
Anything else you want to hit on from Charlotte in the front court or in the back court?
No, I think the only priority is really Terry Rozier at 6,200 on FanDuel.
Okay. Minnesota and Miami. We're headed to South Beach, 226.5 total. Minnesota 6.5 point dogs on the road. They'll be without Jaden McDaniels tonight, but aside from that, everyone looking good. Man, our player prop tool had the heavy under on Anthony Edwards' point total today, which is interesting. Miami is a good defense, a bad offense. They make for a pretty awful DFS conditions anytime you face them. But I'm curious to know, where do you land on guys like Russell, whose minutes are back to where they were? Anthony Edwards' shot volume has been through the roof recently, and he's playing upwards of 38 minutes in close games. Do you think on a 10-game slate with so many viable options, Minnesota actually can stand out for us?
Stand out? No. It's just one of those situations. I mean, the matchup here against Miami is brutal. Not only are they a good defensive team, but they play at a really slow pace. So, on the one hand, Towns, Russell, Edwards, these guys are all capable of lighting it up, but it's just not particularly likely to happen against Miami. One thing that is worth noting is that I guess it was like 2 games ago, Minnesota said that D'Angelo Russell was no longer on a minutes limit, but that he would continue most likely to play around 30 minutes. Then 2 games later, they inserted him into the starting lineup, and he played 37 minutes against Memphis. So if you get another 37 minutes from D'Angelo Russell at $7,300 on DraftKings, despite the matchup, there's a pretty good chance that he has success. I'm just not completely convinced that that's, going to continue happening, but there is at least, some chance of it happening. If he gets 33 or 34 minutes, he's a reasonable option, but I wouldn't say anything that I'm super excited about. Edwards is priced up enough. I have trouble going there. Towns, it's really tough to get him ahead of Jokic and or Embiid and Vucevic. So, again, a really talented player, 1.5 fantasy points per minute, but there's really no shortage of that at the top end tonight. One spot where I think maybe it's interesting to take some shots if you're playing a lot of tournament lineups. Again, not guys that would stand out to me if I'm playing like one lineup, but without McDaniels, you do have more minutes available, where Naz Reid probably plays more minutes alongside Karl Anthony Towns than he normally does. He's 3,600 with power forward eligibility on DraftKings. He's a greater than a 1 fantasy point per minute guy. Hernan Gomez probably plays mid-20s in minutes. He's only 3,500, pretty scoring dependent, but certainly capable of piling in some points. So I think Reed and Hernan Gomez as contrarian options if you're playing a lot of lineups make some sense, but there's nothing that stands out to me as a priority on DraftKings or FanDuel from Minnesota.
Couple super chats to hit on here. It says, sorry to backtrack, but can you touch on Jackson Hayes at 3,500? Any interest there? Do you think he gains any additional minutes tonight?
I don't think he gains minutes. I think so what Zion being out, I think, does for Hayes is if Zion were in and Hernan Gomez got in foul trouble, there's some percentage of the time where New Orleans just goes with Zion at the 5 and they play James Johnson more minutes and they play, Marshall more minutes, whatever. With Zion being out, if Hernan Gomez gets in foul trouble, I think Jackson Hayes is playing. So it kind of just, if you're someone that was like, okay, well, which I think in larger field tournaments is a smart strategy in general when you have, a center in a spot where he's potentially prone to foul trouble, is to say, okay, if people are going to play that guy and he gets in foul trouble, I know this guy benefits. If Zion were in, that would be the case with Hayes, but it would be riskier. With Zion out, if Hernan Gomez gets in foul trouble, Jackson Hayes is playing, I think.
All right.
So it still doesn't make him a priority. It still doesn't make him safe. It still doesn't make him a great play, but it does at least increase the likelihood of the percentage of the time where Hernan Gomez is in foul trouble, Jackson Hayes gets those minutes.
Joel Embiid now a game time decision. That is the same thing as questionable. Nothing has changed. Okay, it's the same thing.
Yeah, it just means we get to search Twitter for Joel Embiid getting his back massage on the bench before a game.
Exactly. Getting his quads,
right,
churned out. I'll say this much. If it's up to Joel Embiid, he's playing.
Yeah, that's all. That's the only thing I was going to say is if it's a true game time decision, like they haven't made up their mind and they're saying, how do you feel? He's going to play.
He's going to play. Yeah.
Right. If it's Doc Rivers just being a dick and saying like, basically he's not going to play unless he just like threatens to kill me, then he's probably not going to play.
That's the thing about Embiid. He does have some like a decent amount of injuries, but he doesn't like to sit. He doesn't like to be babied. You know what I mean? You hear him talk about.
I mean, that's the case for most professional athletes. I think, like even guys like Anthony Davis. People give him shit, but it's like if you go to Anthony Davis and say like, "Hey, can you play?" He's going to say yes. It's normally the training staff saying no.
That might be a bad example.
Even tonight, he's playing.
I know. I'm just kidding. You're right, though. Yeah, Jimmy Butler might say otherwise about Karl Anthony Towns, but who knows? Perfect segue into the Miami Heat. See what I did there? Jimmy Butler questionable today. Oladipo remains out, and Tyler Hero is also questionable. If Butler's out, do we go to Bam Adebayo, hope that he can rack up a triple-double that he's been flirting with recently, or are these guys in these 9K price ranges going to be difficult to get to tonight?
I think it's going to be difficult to get to most of them, but Bam would certainly look better if Butler's out. One thing I like about Bam here, too, is that Karl Anthony Towns plays a lot of minutes, and it would make a lot of sense for Miami to basically have Bam on the floor for every minute that Karl Anthony Towns plays. Like, why wouldn't they? So potentially you could see a couple extra minutes for Adebayo. He's averaged 1.25 fantasy points per minute in games that Butler has played this year. He's averaged 1.31 DraftKings points per minute in games that Butler hasn't played. So you do get a slight bump there. The ceiling is higher because his rates go up across the board. So I think Adebayo is a good option. Minnesota's been the least efficient defense over the last month. They play at a top 10 pace. He's $1,000 less expensive on FanDuel than he is on DraftKings, although obviously the opportunity cost is higher at center as well. But I think you get a high ceiling from Adebayo, but I still wouldn't call him a priority tonight. Kind of the same thing for Butler. If he plays, he's at a price tag where, he is competing with a lot of other guys. And to some extent, salary doesn't matter that much on this slate because there's so much value, but there's still so many other guys priced up there where Butler really just has to beat that group. Like if you're playing tournaments and you roster Butler, he has to beat that group of, Tatum and Embiid if he plays, and Jokic and all these guys, or at least, whichever ones aren't in your lineup, obviously. So it's a really good matchup. I think the ceiling is really high for Butler. It's really high for Bam, but I still wouldn't say that they're priorities in like a cash format or in, my first lineup.
All right. Would you pay for Kendrick Nunn or Goran Dragic in the event that Butler and Hero are both out?
Yeah, I think they both look really good if Butler and Hero are both out. Both players questionable right now, so it has the potential to just be a completely moot point. But if you're going to get 36 minutes from Kendrick Nunn, yeah, $30 or $6,200 not a great price tag, but it is a really good matchup. Goran Dragic probably plays about 30 minutes if both guys are out at 5,600. I think he would look really good. So both Nunn and Dragic, I think, would take a pretty significant jump forward if Butler and Hero are ruled out.
All right. Joe says with the super chat, been listening since the 2K Sims during the pandemic. Wild times, man. That feels like forever ago. You guys have helped me out in more ways than just DFS. Thanks for always being here. You got it, man. Appreciate the support. I love hearing that stuff. It's good shit. All right. You ready to talk about Houston and Milwaukee?
No.
All right, fine. Let's talk about Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports. If you haven't checked them out yet, well, we got you covered today, because if you sign up for the first time at Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports today, get $30 in free contest entries when you sign up with the promo code Awesemo, AWESEMO. That includes their $35,000 baller tonight. So you haven't played on Yahoo yet? It's a solid site. I mean, they're the third biggest DFS site out there. Granted, you have DraftKings and Fanduel. They're doing insane things, but Yahoo has good-sized contests every night. There's no doubt about it. And it's a format that you can easily adjust to, which I think most of you guys would agree that play on there. The cool thing, too, is they're pushing back their lock time to 7:30 tonight because Greg Ehrenberg and Eric Lindquist are going to go live after us straight at 6 p.m. Eastern. And then from 7 to 7:30, they're doing the full, straight-out, exclusive Yahoo show that hopefully you guys stick around for. So not only use the promo code Awesemo, get your $30, but you got the show tonight to get you on track, prepped for that 30-minute later lock than the main slate where you can get your lineups in everywhere else. And at Awesemo, we have all the tools for Yahoo. Any tools that you're looking for these sports, we got you covered for Yahoo as well. So check it out. If you're new, use that promo code, get your $30 in entry fees. It's a one-time offer. Take advantage of it tonight. They're one of the leaders in fantasy sports for a reason. Give them a shot, use the promo, and use our tools over at awesemo.com. Yahoo, daily fantasy sports sponsor of the Deeper Dive. All right, Houston Rockets. They have 4 players that aren't on the injury report. They just signed officially Curry Thompson, but same conversation you and I had last time, like, will he be active tonight? I don't know. Nwaba, Dante Exum, John Wall. These are guys that have been out, but I'm just reading all of them. Nwaba, Exum, Wall, DJ Wilson, Avery Bradley, Sterling Brown, Eric Gordon, Kevin Porter Jr. I'm just assuming Daniel House, who's doubtful, doesn't play either. So they're all out. That leaves you with Christian Wood, Kelly Olynyk, Jayshawn Tate, questionable. DJ Augustine, questionable, but he was active last game and didn't see the floor. They ran Steven Silas ran a 7-man rotation. This is as big a mess. This is as big a representation of late April or May basketball as you could ever find in the league.
Yeah, without a doubt. And so one thing to keep in mind is from, the Pels Sixers game at 7, there's some good plays. From the Boston Chicago game at 7:30, there's some good plays. If you don't love the play, don't play them. Especially, if you're someone playing like one lineup, keep your flexibility open if we don't have Houston news, because this has the potential to be a situation where several guys on Houston look good, or it has the potential to be a situation where you need to play several guys from Houston because they have like 7 guys playing. Obviously, they have to have 8 available to play the game, but like they did last game, they made DJ Augustine available, and then they said, yeah, but he's not going to play. I do think that Kyrie Thomas is available. Looking at Jonathan Fagan's tweet, who's one of the Rockets beat writers, 22 minutes ago, he said, Rockets make official the move to add Kyrie Thomas. As reported on Wednesday, the timing was dependent on when he cleared protocols. So I'm assuming he cleared protocols, and that's why they've announced it, and now he can play. There were also articles talking about how the Rockets have 7 games left in the season, so they wanted to see what Kyrie Thomas could do on his 10-day contract, blah, blah, blah. So I think Kyrie Thomas can play. But regardless, you have Christian Wood questionable. You have Olynyk questionable. You have Tate, who has said he's a game-time decision. You have who's the last questionable? Augustine questionable. So if you assume that Kyrie Thomas can play and you assume that all 4 questionable guys play, they still only have 9 guys in the game with the highest total on the slate. So there's still value to be had here. It's just a little bit more dicey than if guys start getting ruled out. So it kind of just, there's a lot of moving parts, but you're going to be getting the guys from Houston tonight.
All right. Giannis with an illness probable. Blake Griffin, that doesn't matter. Okay. Arcathelza says, if news breaks both way, Ariza or KJ Martin on DraftKings?
KJ Martin.
Okay, yeah. And this is exciting. Gomo said, had to say hello because the 2K Sims were brought up. Good luck tonight. Oh, for those of you that were around for the Sims, Gomo, we had like thousands of entries in this, and this guy won like 3 nights in 5 days. It was the most absurd thing I've ever seen. Gomo, we were all in chat the other day on Slack, me and Ben and Josh, trying to remember the name. Thank you for reminding us of the NBA 2K Sims GOAT, and thanks for the super chat. Oh, what a blast from the past. Gotta love it. All right. I'll ask you this much because it's so difficult, and this is why we have live before live. I think we'll get some of this news. Who do you have in and out right now?
I mean, right now I'm assuming the questionable guys are in. I don't really know what else to do.
Like, do you think Augustine plays though, even if he's in?
I don't know.
I know. You'd be lying if you had a real answer for some of these questions because we don't.
Right?
know.
Yeah. Like I have no idea. Like hopefully we'll get that information. I think kind of just the way I'm thinking about it right now in terms of like trying to mentally be prepared for what to do. Like Kelly Olynyk is questionable. If he plays at 8K, he's a good play regardless of who is in or out. He's averaged 1.2 DraftKings points per minute. He becomes even better if Christian Wood is out because then you're getting all the center minutes. He played 40 minutes last game. He's averaged almost 1.3 DraftKings points per minute without Wood, Wall, or Harden or Oladipo on the floor. So like Kelly Olynyk, if he plays, is fine. If other guys are out, he's even better. Christian Wood is still good if he plays, but like he's expensive enough where I still don't really think he would stand out. Jayshawn Tate would be fine, but he's expensive enough that he's kind of just neutral to me. But like Kenyon Martin, I think plays big minutes regardless because he can play multiple positions. He's averaged greater than 0.8 fantasy points per minute this year. So he's someone that will produce when he's out there. He played 44 minutes last game. If you take any, like, I think he's, even if they have not 8 or 9 guys, I think he's fine. But if you take any of like Jayshawn Tate, Kelly Olynyk, Christian Wood out, Kenyon Martin just like jumps up the board. Jeffries, Lamb, Brooks are all cheap enough where the fact that they average 0.65 to 0.7 fantasy points per minute doesn't matter all that much if they're going to have to play 30 plus minutes. The backcourt tonight, so last game, the front court was pretty thin. You didn't have Christian Wood. You didn't have Jayshawn Tate. Tonight, we know the backcourt is thin. You don't have Avery Bradley. You don't have Kevin Porter. You clearly don't have Sterling Brown, John Wall, David Nwaba, Dante Exum, Eric Gordon, any of those guys. So Brooks, I think, needs to play a lot of minutes. And then Jeffries probably plays another, mid-30s, and Lamb can get around 32. All of those guys are, 0.65 to 0.7 fantasy point per minute guys, but they're also all close to minimum salary. So kind of regardless of what news comes out, they're going to at least be good point per dollar plays. The more guys that get ruled out, the better they look.
The crazy thing, though, is if everyone who's questionable plays, you still only have 8, and that assumes 9. Augustine. Is it 9?
9, including Kyrie Thomas.
Is he active?
I'm assuming he is because they said that they weren't announcing the contract until he had cleared protocols.
Okay, so that's different. Got it. 9. But I think it could still easily end up as 7 or 8 depending on the way this thing breaks.
Oh, 100%. You could end up like if everyone is in and playing, you have 9, and that's including Thomas. If you assume at least one of the questionable guys gets ruled out, you have 8. There's the potential for them to dress 8 and play 6. Like if they could say, oh, Christian Wood and DJ Augustine are active, they're not playing because the alternative is they forfeit the game. So
yeah, if one of the guys that started last game that wasn't starting in place of Wood or Tate, like if it's a weird starting lineup and one guy that should be in it is active but not starting, I'm not going anywhere near them because we know what that means.
Yeah, well, 100% on that. And to be fair, Steven Silas has been pretty straightforward with this kind of stuff. Like, we got the news that DJ Augustine wasn't going to actually play like 15, 20 minutes before their game started last slate. But yeah, if we get Jayshawn Tate available coming off the bench, just don't play Jayshawn Tate and assume Jayshawn Tate's not playing.
Yeah, good point. All right. Let's keep it going on the Milwaukee. You got to tune in for the live before lock. Like you have to stick around. So much news should be coming. Joel Embiid, Houston news. I wouldn't be surprised if some Milwaukee news breaks. Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Bucks are big favorites, 16.5 points at home, 232 total. I still like the under on 28.5 points for Giannis, though. I just think there are so many ways for him to come in under on this, Adam. Like, could he do it in 3 quarters? Yes. But what's the likelihood that we get a full 4 quarters from Giannis coming into this game with an injury right now? I know it's juiced a little to the under, like 117 last I looked, but I like the under here. And I think, for a guy that doesn't really need to do all that much in this game for them to win handily, it's a good spot. I want nothing to do with Giannis for DFS purposes tonight, unless you can convince me otherwise.
So I will say Giannis being probable is actually really scary to me, because he wasn't on the 130 injury report. And I had semi-jokingly tweeted earlier in the day that we were going to get that Houston had 6 guys playing and Milwaukee's going to do the thing where they don't play any of their guys. Now you get Giannis probable with an illness at 5:30. It really, really concerns me. But as of right now, there's nothing really you can do other than assume he's going to play. If he plays, I still think he's a great option because, and my reasoning is that he's the best fantasy point or one of the best fantasy point per minute guys. He's in a great matchup against a Houston team that can't defend the paint, can't defend anyone, plays at a fast pace. And there's no, it goes back to there's no one game on this slate that's perfect. There's no game you can look at and say, oh, that's a good matchup that is likely to stay close. The only appealing matchups are relatively likely to be blowouts. Games like Denver and Utah that are likely to be close are pretty unappealing games in terms of pace. If Giannis does play and plays 30, he's averaged 33 minutes per game for the season, and you have to keep in mind that Milwaukee has blown out a lot of teams this year, so that kind of it does kind of bake in the fact that Milwaukee is a huge favorite in this game. If Giannis plays 30 to 32 minutes at 1.7 DraftKings points per minute, he's still going to give you one of the top scorers on the slate. So I am still interested in Giannis. I do think there's enough volatility where ownership, does matter. Right now, projected for 24% on DraftKings, which is relatively high for this slate. But I am still interested there. It's just there are very obvious concerns as well.
That's fair. I think the one caveat is I'd be a little bit more willing to do it if Christian Wood and Kelly Olynyk are both active tonight. That might make me feel a little bit better. Alexander Walker is now ruled out officially along with Steven Adams for New Orleans. Oh, guys, by the way, Zion's out. You already talked about what happens if Nickeil Alexander-Walker's out. It just opens up more minutes for these backcourt guys. So
yeah, I'd assumed he was going to be out. It means that Kyra Lewis probably plays like 24 to 26 minutes.
Do you want to do anything else with Milwaukee?
Not really. I mean, the same things that we've said about Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton recently in these, high scoring games is true. They can easily go out there and drop 50, but there's just so many alternatives on this slate. It makes it really, really tough to get there. Not to mention their salaries have come up even more. Like a couple slates ago, it was like, oh, Drew Holiday at $8K is a little bit overpriced, but he's got a really high ceiling. Now it's like, oh, Drew Holiday at $8,600 with a 10% price increase. He's still, overpriced with a high ceiling, but he's even more overpriced than he already was.
All right. We got 5 down, 5 to go. Making great time here, as we always do on the deeper dive. It's a good time to save. You guys want some free content that's usually behind the paywall. We rotate through this. Ownership rankings for basketball, MLB player rankings, NHL player rankings, and MMA fighter projections are all free today. If you really want to get a taste of everything, go to awesemo.com/join. We have everything you need for every single sport, even if you don't know these sports well. Adam's a perfect example. Dude used our tools to win a ton in NHL last year and is crushing MMA this year. Ask him to name you, 25 MMA fighters off the top of his head. I bet he gets to 15, but that's just the way it is. I bet Steve Buzzard, who's been crushing MMA, couldn't name most of them either. Sorry if I'm wrong, Steve, but we have top stack tool, ownership, player projections, lineup builder, Fantasy Cruncher add-on, all of the premium articles, the boom bust tool, which is huge for so many sports, top stack for baseball, top fighter tool, top racer tool, top golfer tool, all of these things. that is what you need to win at this stage of the game, with the edge disappearing in DFS for sure. Alex Baker, Awesemo himself, created these tools himself, uses these tools. They're also managed by some of the best players out there. So check it out. Go to awesemo.com/join. You can do a week. You can do an express week for less than $4. You can do all sports, one sport for the week, the month, the year. It doesn't matter. You want to make a real investment of it. You want to just try it out. We got you on any level. Awesemo.com/join. And if you have any questions, feel free to hit me up on Twitter. My DMs are open, and I'll be happy to get you squared away. All right, Cleveland and Dallas. I don't imagine we're going to be spending nearly as much time on this game as we were on others. Dude, there's no ownership at all on Cleveland. Dallas will get to a little bit coming in there on guys like Luka and Tim Hardaway Jr., but can we just clear the board real quick with the Cavaliers?
Yeah, there's not a whole lot to say here. I mean, you still have Garland out, but Colin Sexton is priced for that. Chetty Osman at this point is priced for that. And the biggest thing is this should just be a really slow-paced game. I mean, it still has a 220 total because we're in 2021 and every game is high scoring. But Dallas is bottom 5 in pace over the last month. Cleveland's bottom 5 or bottom 8, somewhere in that range over the last month. It's just not a spot where on a slate that there's a lot of guys to pay up for, a lot of very underpriced value options to stand out. There's just not much to see from the Cleveland side, I don't think.
All right. Dwayne says, got my platinum account and playing baseball, all cruncher, no knowledge, LMAO. Yeah, I mean, that's the way it goes. Chad paid us $5 to say Zion is out. Thanks, Chad. And Sam Van Den, welcome to Team Awesemo. You want to join Team Awesemo, get the badges, get the emojis, the Laffy emojis, the Adams, the Josh, the EMAC, the everybody. You'll see it right down there. Just click join. Good stuff. All right. So Dallas, Luka, Tim Hardaway, second of a back-to-back, coming off that win against the Brooklyn Nets. What do you say?
Yeah, I think Luka's mostly where I start and finish. Of course, Luka's great. He's 1.6 DraftKings points per minute for the season. He doesn't benefit with Porzingis out, but he still has that massive ceiling. Cleveland, one thing I pointed out the other day when they played Portland, and it applies to Luka as well. Cleveland has allowed the most points per possession to pick and roll ball handlers this year, which, Luka's second in the league in pick and roll possessions per game. He's in the 85th percentile in pick and roll efficiency. You can expect around 36 minutes from him. Luka looks really good. DraftKings, I think he'll be a little bit easier to roster because he has guard forward eligibility, so you can plug him in at small forward, which helps a lot. I really like Luka. Beyond that, if you get to some Tim Hardaway Jr., it's fine. He probably plays 32 or 33 minutes. Porzingis and Kleber are out again, so he should get minutes, but he's still scoring dependent. It's just a slate where I think it's going to be really difficult to prioritize him, because if he does give you like 34, 35 DraftKings points, that's great, but it's not moving the needle most likely on winning a tournament. Same kind of can be said. The center position is kind of interesting because you still have Willie Cauley-Stein at 3,300. You have Dwight Powell at 3,700. Either of those guys are reasonable looks in tournaments. The problem you're going to run into is that you have a lot of $3,300 or $3,500 or $3,700 guards, forwards even, that you can use. The center position, you have Jokic, you have maybe Embiid, you have Hernan Gomez, you have Mo Bamba. You have these guys that are reasonably or that are underpriced for their likely production. I'm not really sure that if you get 25 points from Willie Cauley-Stein tonight, it's that useful for you. But as far as that position goes, it is worth noting that we once again last night saw Dwight Powell get the closing minutes over Cauley-Stein. Cauley-Stein was playing pretty well, but he still only played 20.8 minutes. You got Dwight Powell off the bench playing 27.2. They split 48, so I wouldn't play these guys together for sure on this slate. If you want to throw a dart at one of them and hope that they go out and give you 30 fantasy points again, certainly that's fine, but the opportunity cost at center is pretty high. All
right, Sixers moved to 10.5, so you got 2 points there. Going to beat the closing line nicely. Pay attention for that Embiid news. Things could change, of course. But Austin Dean with I have a hunch Zion might not be playing. He also paid us $5 to say that. things are getting wild today. And Jeffrey hit that. He said, hit that like button, people. We're at a terrible 18%. I love how the ratio adoption has become a thing. Yeah, get us to 500 before this before lock show starts. We're doing all the heavy lifting we can to try and get you guys ready. And we appreciate you being with us throughout the hour and 15 minutes. Anything else for Dallas?
I think that's about it. Luka, I would say, is the guy that jumps out. If you mix in some Hardaway, some Powell, some Cauley-Stein, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's nothing I feel particularly strong about.
Utah hosting the Denver Nuggets. Denver going into this one is 4-point favorites. No Mitchell, no Conley, of course, for Utah. 217.5 total. You mentioned earlier in the show that Jokic does not have a particularly good matchup, but you find it somewhat appealing. Tell us why.
Yeah, so there's a couple of reasons here. For one, Jokic himself is just pretty much matchup proof. Like, he's not reliant on scoring around the rim. So Rudy Gobert being a really good rim protector isn't that concerning because Jokic will just take threes. You can't do a whole lot to scheme Jokic out of the offense because he's such a good passer. You know, if you double or triple him, he's just going to find wide open threes or wide open cutters for layups. It's not going to be really effective. And then even if you look back, he's had success against Gobert in the past. And I don't want to read too much into, you know, individual center matchups, but it is worth noting in a situation like this where I would expect Jokic to still have success against Gobert. They've played 5 times over the last 2 seasons, and he's averaged 1.72 DraftKings points per minute. He has scored at least 70 DraftKings points in 3 of the 5 games. His lowest score was 54.5. So he really just hasn't struggled here. I don't expect it to happen again today, even though Utah as a team is very good defensively. And then the other thing outside of this individual matchup is, again, it goes back to the slate. Like, if you had Giannis at the same price as Jokic, and Giannis was in a game with a 245-point total and a 2-point spread, you would say, okay, well, Giannis is just in a much better spot because, like, that's a game that's going to most likely be very close and really high scoring. But there's no real game like that on this slate. The highest total is that 233-point Milwaukee-Houston game with a 16.5-point spread. Pretty likely not to have a fourth quarter there. Every other game is within 10 points. So the fact that this is a relatively low-scoring game between 2 slower teams isn't really that big of a concern. And again, it just goes back to Jokic being so good that I'm not particularly concerned about Gobert or the Utah matchup either.
All right. What are we doing with Utah then? Well, actually, no, let's keep going on Denver because I want to talk about Facundo Campazzo a little bit. He's second in touches since Jamal Murray went down behind Jokic, who's averaging 100 per game. But I bring that stat up.
Is that the actual number?
Yeah. Jokic, 100 touches per game?
Yeah.
Dude, what do you think he's averaging on the season?
82.
Jokic?
Yeah, I figured he was between like 80 and 100, but I didn't think he was at 100.
Oh, no, dude. He's at 101.3 on the year.
Wow.
On the year.
Yeah,
he leads the league by 5 touches per game. Amazingly, Sabonis is second, so 2 bigs lead the league in touches, followed by Westbrook, Harden, and Luka Doncic. But the reason I bring that up with Campazzo is because he's not just standing around. He's not just replacing Murray as a body and not really producing. Granted, his shot volume is a far cry from what Murray's was, but he is involved as a facilitator. He has back-to-back 5-steal games. He's getting his hands in passing lanes. He has been pretty good.
Yeah, he has. My issue with him here, and I mean, it's not so much an issue. It's just like, I think it's going to be hard to prioritize him because, like, let's say he gets you 33 DraftKings points or something, which is, you know, above his projection, and it would be a pretty good game. It's kind of the same thing I said about Tim Hardaway. Like, that's good, but you have a lot of like $3,300, $3,600 guards that are likely to score like 24 points today. So I don't really know how useful that is. And it is a tough matchup. Like, I'm more concerned about the matchup for guys like Campazzo than I am for Jokic. Anything else for Denver? Paul Millsap, keep an eye on the starting lineup. We saw Millsap get the start in place of PJ Dozier last game with Dozier injured. That wasn't all that surprising. I thought it was going to be JaMychal Green, but Millsap, you know, it's the same thing. It could be a different lineup today because Utah's not as big a team. Like Niang is not the same as Julius Randle. But assuming Paul Millsap starts, you probably get around 24 minutes. He's averaged 0.92 DraftKings points per minute as a starter this year. He's 3,400 on DraftKings. That's a pretty reasonable value. Austin Rivers not in play for me on FanDuel, but 3,700 on DraftKings I think is worth a look. But keep in mind, I think there's maybe going to be some confirmation bias today because people were interested in Rivers last game with Dozier out, and he played 28 minutes, which is pretty much the same as he had been playing. He just happened to shoot 6 of 9 from 3 and pick up 3 steals, so he had a monster game. I think if that game had been competitive, he would have played 30 to 32 minutes, but the point remains that you saw Mike Malone willing to go with bigger lineups that had Michael Porter Jr. at the 2. I think you probably get around 30 minutes for Austin Rivers, but this is someone that's averaged about 0.6 DraftKings points per minute, so it's not like it's we shouldn't just start expecting Rivers to be throwing 30 plus fantasy points up every night. I don't think so either. On Utah, Jordan Clarkson has been a popular topic of conversation lately with Mitchell and Conley out. Do we go back to him? I don't have any interest in going to Clarkson today. As a matter of fact, Utah collectively
doesn't do a whole lot for me. There's just so many games, so many spots that stand out as really, really good positions at price points that I'm not paying a premium for. Are you on Gobert or Mitchell or Clarkson or anyone else here?
No, nothing really stands out to me either. Gobert, of course, has a high ceiling, but there's a lot of really good center plays. Clarkson does have a 30% usage rate in the games without Conley and Mitchell, but the price point's where it should be. And I think that makes it so he's not really someone you're looking at in cash games. He's not someone you're looking at as a priority. He still is capable of throwing up 45 or 50 fantasy points, which is clearly good for his salary, but he's a very scoring dependent player. He has about a 14.5% assist percentage, even in the games without Conley and Mitchell, but that 30% usage rate is relatively high for someone priced between 7K and 7,500. Joe Ingles gives you the higher floor. He's less likely to get you 50 fantasy points, but he's also less likely to completely suck. He has a 38% assist percentage in the games without Conley and Mitchell, 21% usage rate. He's averaged about the same fantasy points per minute as Clarkson and is available for $800 to $1,000 less, depending on the site. So if I have to go to one, I would actually say Ingles over Clarkson normally. But those are really the two guys, I guess three guys, including Gobert, that I could see getting to, but none of them really look that good to me.
All right. 7 up, 3 to go. We'll move it to the Lakers, to the Portland Trail Blazers. The Lakers here without LeBron. Again, AD expected to play tonight. Schroeder out in protocol. Talen Horton-Tucker also sidelined for this one. So, Adam, the question for you is there any interest against the bad Portland defense in Anthony Davis that maybe he can finally give us a game that's worthwhile enough at his price point?
If you want to play Anthony Davis, I'm not going to talk you off of it because it is Anthony Davis. It is a good matchup. He's certainly capable of putting up a monster game. And honestly, this is the kind of spot where it's just like, it would make sense for it to happen because it's a good matchup against Portland. Everyone's kind of written him off because he left yesterday's game after 9 minutes, and now he's going to just kind of like sneak his way back into the starting lineup and then score 70 points. But that being said, it's really, really tough for me to prioritize him because he's just not that much less expensive than Jason Tatum, who we know what we're getting. He's not much less expensive than Julius Randle, who we know what we're getting. There's so many pay up options tonight that you're going to be able to find low owned ones without taking on Anthony Davis, who clearly just has not been playing particularly well. So I'm not going to talk anyone off of it. Not going to say like he's a bad play, but I personally think I'll be getting to other guys in that price range.
Can you get to anyone else on the Lakers today?
Yeah. So one spot, actually there's a couple spots here I like. Alex Caruso is questionable. If he's out, it really throws a wrench into this Lakers team, but assuming he plays, he's 4K on DraftKings, 5K on Fanduel. I think you get a ton of minutes from Alex Caruso if he plays because he played 26 minutes 2 games ago, but Talen Horton-Tucker was in that game and he was serving as Caruso's backup. Last game yesterday, Horton-Tucker didn't play. Horton-Tucker's not playing tonight. You got 30 minutes from Alex Caruso or 28 and a half minutes in less than 3 quarters. If that game had been close, you're probably getting like 34 minutes from Caruso. He's averaged about 0.8 DraftKings points per minute without Schroeder or James on the floor this year. That's pretty good for his salary. One other spot that I'm interested in, I think is kind of being underprojected across the industry from looking at some projections. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope has averaged 0.75 DraftKings points per minute without Schroeder, without James this year. He played 29.3 minutes. Again, in less than 3 quarters yesterday, he played over 20 minutes in the first half. They're shorthanded without Horton-Tucker, without Schroeder. I think if this game's close, you're getting 36 plus from Caldwell-Pope. This is a game the Lakers need to win. I don't think that they're going to run a deep rotation and kind of limit everyone's minutes. I think they're running a tight rotation tonight. I think you get a lot of minutes from KCP at only 3,800 on DraftKings. And then the final spot that I would point out is Kyle Kuzma, who actually did have a big game last night, played 31.1 minutes, missed his final rotation, probably would have played about 36. His per minute production hasn't really changed without LeBron, with or without Schroeder, but he's around a 0.9 fantasy point per minute guy. The minutes change without those guys. I think you're getting a $5,600 Kuzma, probably playing 34 to 36 minutes in a pretty good matchup.
All right. Now, Damian Lillard has been one of the more unpredictable guys that we've gotten to this season. He's dropped 53 plus in 4 straight games. And I was actually talking to you about Trae Young yesterday and a few of these guys that come in at similar price points. The crazy thing is, even at 9,300, 97, 9,500, earlier in the year, 55, 57 was really good, or at least manageable, right? Like you could win with that. These guys, you need them to do more than that right now. Trae Young had 35 and 10 yesterday or something, mid 50-point game. it's like it doesn't even matter with all of the injuries and with all of these condensed rotations that are allowing you to say, okay, I could play Lillard, and if he doesn't go for 70, well, I got so many other cheap guys in my lineup or cheap options that I could just pay up for Westbrook or Luka, who just have a higher likelihood of getting there. And I think late in the season, that becomes an issue with guys in this price range. Yeah,
100%. And it's just, you have to get the whole price range, like 9K to 11K kind of just becomes like one price range. Like it doesn't matter a whole lot, the difference there, because there's so much value that you can get to you're not sacrificing a whole lot to go from, of course not the case tonight, but like Lillard to Westbrook or something, tonight Lillard to Jokic or something like that. So it's not, if you get 57 from Lillard and Jokic scores 64, with the amount of value that you get at this point in the season, it's not likely that you're going to be able to say, oh, well, that $1,500 in savings really, made it worth giving up 8 fantasy points. Chances are you need those 8 fantasy points because someone else made up for it somewhere. So that's what makes it really tough, is Lillard still has to beat all those guys. Can he do it? He certainly can, but it's not a very particularly good matchup against the Lakers. The one thing that I'll point out here is this game has playoff implications for both teams. So it would not be surprising to me. I said it with KCP, I said it with Kuzma. You could see 36 to 40 minutes from these guys. It would not be surprising to me if Damian Lillard comes out here and just plays 42 minutes against the Lakers like you would see in a postseason game.
Do you think anywhere else in Portland is even slightly viable?
Not outside of, the normal Yusuf Nurkic and CJ McCollum are both capable of going nuts as well. And if you buy into what I just said, like if you think there's a chance Lillard plays a ton of minutes, Nurkic and for sure McCollum are also playing a ton of minutes. But I think Lillard's the one where I can make the best case where it's just like, maybe this is a playoff game for the Blazers and the Lakers, and you just get Damian Lillard sitting for a total of 6 minutes tonight.
But listen, I love Damian Lillard. It's just so tough with how many guys are so cheap to get to. But would you say the ownership on him, because we only have a couple minutes left here. This is the last question I'll ask you. Do you think the ownership around 10% is too low?
I think it's too high.
Okay. You actually think it's too
So like right now we have him with like a 7.5% chance of being in the optimal lineup. So the thing that I would say, and it kind of piggybacks on what I was just saying, was, so let's say Lillard does play 40 minutes tonight, right? Like the Blazers decide this is a playoff game. He's going to play 40 minutes. That's basically what Jason Tatum's projected for. And Jason Tatum averages more fantasy points per minute than Dame. So you need Dame to actually get, you need that narrative to come into play where Dame actually gets all those extra minutes, but then you still need him to produce at an above average rate, or he's still not going to beat this group of players.
Yeah, fair enough. San Antonio, Sacramento. First question here, because I want to get some time on Sacramento, is as 4.5-point favorites in a 223 total game. Do you have anything for San Antonio that you like?
I kind of called a DeJounte Murray triple-double in the deep dive, or at least said he had the
okay.
He had the upside for it and the matchup for it. But, still someone that I don't think is possible to make a priority. It's just, this is someone that rebounds well, he gets assists, and he can score. And he's playing a fast-paced Kings team that doesn't really stop anybody from doing anything. DeMar DeRozan, sort of the similar thing where, like, salary doesn't matter a ton on this slate. So if you land on some DeMar DeRozan, I think that's fine. He's a very productive player in a good matchup. But again, they're just not, if you're looking at top projected lineups, they're not going to show up.
All right. I got one more prop for you from Sacramento, and then I'll toss it your way, Adam. With De'Aaron Fox out, Halliburton out, Harrison Barnes doubtful. I don't anticipate him playing. I'm going over 6.5 assists for DeLon Wright. He's averaging 16 potential assists per game in these 2 games since he started. So if I'm getting something where I can say he only has to convert half of those to hit the over here, there's no real juice on the over. I like that quite a bit, and I'm willing to pay for DeLon Wright, dude. The stocks have been insane. The touches, the rebound, or the assist, potential assist, everything has been off the charts for this guy, and I'm not exactly looking at San Antonio as an imposing matchup. So that's my take there. What's your take on the rest of the Sacramento Kings today? And then we'll wrap it up with New York and Phoenix. Do you have anything you really like for New York and Phoenix?
Not really.
Okay, so let's go to Sacramento. I just wanted to make sure we had time.
Yeah, so I'm with you on DeLon Wright. I kind of broke down the math in the deep dive for anyone that wants to pull it up and read it. But if you just assume that DeLon Wright is going to produce at the same rate that he has over the course of the season with the Pistons and the Kings, and you assume he's going to play like 38 minutes again tonight, he's about a fantasy point per minute guy. And probably playing around 38 minutes at $6,800. So that's still a pretty good price tag. But then you also have to factor in that Fox is out, Halliburton's out. You're seeing his rates up across the board under those conditions compared to what he's been for the season. So naturally, you're going to assume he actually produces greater than that 0.95 DraftKings points per minute. He's probably like a 1.05 to 1.1, somewhere in there, fantasy point per minute guy as you play more games under these conditions. You mentioned the potential assists. The rebound chances have been there as well. Double-digit rebound chances per game. Potential assists are there. Usage rate's only 18.7%, but he's playing so many minutes that he's still getting double-digit field goal attempts. So I still think Wright looks really good. Marvin Bagley, particularly on DraftKings, should play another 33, 34 minutes. He's greater than a fantasy point per minute guy at 5,900. And then the final thing I would point out is we're actually seeing peripherals from Buddy Hield. He's priced up enough where I still wouldn't call him a priority, but I don't think it can be slept on how high his ceiling is here. The usage rate still isn't really where you would like it to be without Fox and Halliburton, but he's getting, 16, 19 field goal attempts. He's getting double-digit three-pointers, but he's averaged 17 rebound chances per game in the games he's played without Fox and Halliburton. His assist percentage, or his potential assists, are double digits as well. This is someone that the knock on him normally is he's a three-point shooter that doesn't do anything else. Now you're getting 40 or 42 minutes from this guy, and he's actually contributing some rebounds and some assists. So I think he's priced up enough where I wouldn't say he's like a top play. I would rather go to Wright on DraftKings or FanDuel. I'd rather go to Bagley on DraftKings, but Hield does have a very high ceiling with the the added peripheral opportunities.
Agreed. DeLon Wright is averaging over 3 stocks per 36 this season as well.
Yeah, and that's for the season. That's not the last couple of games.
No, for the season. Yeah,
right.
Per 36, over 3 stocks. No, the last couple of games is like 500. It's insane. Very quickly, priorities for Sacramento.
DeLon Wright on DraftKings and FanDuel. Marvin Bagley, particularly on DraftKings. And then I like Hield, but I wouldn't call him priority.
All right, we got bombarded with news today. Sorry if you're waiting for Live Before Lock. Got to give us about 30 seconds here. Greg and Eric taking you up till not 7, but 7:30 because you got the 30-minute Yahoo segment coming up. They pushed their slate back, and if you use the promo code Awesemo as a new user, $30 in entry fees over at Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports. Wrap us up, Adam. We are really up against it. The Knicks, 6.5-point dogs, 216.5 total in Phoenix.
The Knicks are the side of this game I think is kind of interesting because you're probably not going to have Alec Burks. You're probably not going to have Emmanuel Quickley. I think that there's a pretty good chance you get like 24 minutes or so from Elfrid Payton, who's averaged about 0.9 DraftKings points per minute as a starter this year. He's normally not really a strong option because they go to Quickley, they go to Derrick Rose. But at 3,300 on DraftKings, I think 3,600 on FanDuel, reasonable option just because he's so cheap and you're probably getting 22 to 24 minutes there. But those guys being out also makes it likely that Derrick Rose tops 30 minutes. He's a fantasy point per minute guy. Not the best price tag on this slate, but $6K on DraftKings, 6,200 on FanDuel still gives you a really high ceiling. Julius Randle's averaged 39 minutes per game without Alec Burks this year. He's averaged almost 1.4 DraftKings points per minute in those games as well. He's kind of in that same ballpark with Jason Tatum where he doesn't look great at his salary, but he's very clearly in the mix for top scorer on the slate given how many minutes he plays and how productive he is. RJ Barrett should play about 40 minutes as well. He's at a price point that's pretty hard to get behind, but I think Randle, Rose, Payton are the guys that stand out from the Knicks. From the Phoenix side, I don't really have much of anything. Chris Paul, Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, these guys are all capable of scoring a lot of points. The one thing I would point out, or to keep an eye on at least, Cameron Johnson is out for this game. Jay Crowder is questionable. If Crowder sits as well, you could potentially get like 36 minutes from Torrey Craig at 3,500.
All right, I'll close with this. Alex Dodell says, wanted to thank you guys for all your help. I sucked at this, but won my first $3,000 with the tools you guys provide. Thank you. Yeah, man. Congratulations. And hit that thumbs up. We're heading out of here. Get the 500 or my position at Awesemo will be terminated. I was told that earlier today. So
don't get the 500. Robert Williams out.
Don't do that to me. Yeah, Robert Williams also sidelined. Greg and Eric coming up next. Have a great weekend, guys. Good luck tonight. We'll see you back here on Monday.
the Awesemo NBA Live Before Lock Show. We are sponsored today once again by Yahoo, and this is going to be big, guys, because not only, once again, just like last night, Eric and I went 30 minutes after lock. We talked about Jock Mark. Today, 30 minutes after lock, talked about Yahoo. Yahoo is running a really big contest for this week. Last week, we sold it out pretty quickly. Hopefully, we can do something similar today, because on Yahoo, they're running a $35K NBA baller contest, and also we are running a little bit of a promo there. So if you use the promo code Awesemo to sign up, you can get $30 in free contest entry. So definitely go check that out. Last I checked, the contest was a little over half full, and also that's going to be locking at 7:30. So Eric and I could be building some lineups and talking about that in the 7 to 7:30 time block. And the other thing that's also going to happen from 7 to 7:30, players are going to get ruled out. So definitely something else to stick around, check out, because we'll have all kinds of other stuff to talk about. But first off, Eric, what are you making with all this news we have that number one has come out and then number two that we're waiting for?
In the words of one Samuel Jackson from Jurassic Park, hold on to your butts, because this is going to get so ridiculous. It's already ridiculous. Can we just say that flat out? One of the best things about playing Yahoo today, though, you avoid that Philly-New Orleans game. So they pushed the lock back half an hour, and my goodness, we still have to deal with Houston. There's no way around that, but we don't have to deal with any of the Pelicans value over on Yahoo for that half an hour afterwards. So I'm very, very excited about that. Excited to be playing over there today quite a bit, and you should be too.
All right, Eric. I like the enthusiasm. I like the promo intro there, and then also we're both wearing glasses today. So for me, it's kind of a allergies / running out of contacts type thing. For you, I think that you just like being able to see, also to live into the Chalk Ken character. But let's start with the news we just got right before we started, because that's what I'm updating for right now at the moment, is Robert Williams. He was listed as questionable. He has now been officially ruled out. So from a Celtics standpoint now, we have no Robert Williams. Jaylen Brown, he remains out as well. So is there anybody that's going to stand out to you as a play from Boston now?
Well, Tristan Thompson is going to probably stick out for me a little bit here. That's kind of the initial guy right off the bat. He got ruled in at the exact same time, so I think that is going to make some sense going there. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, it's a bad Chicago front court here. I like going to Tristan now that he's going to be in there, but otherwise, Jason Tatum just full lock and load. I think he was already one of my favorite tournament plays on this slate. Been producing phenomenally well here with Jaylen Brown off the floor this entire season. Obviously still has Kemba out there, but there's nobody else like, Evan Fournier cuts in a little bit, but Jason Tatum has been really, really good here of late, making him kind of a contrarian spend up at 10-5 over on DraftKings. It sounds really wrong and weird, but he does have the kind of ceiling that you're looking for in this game. Going into Chicago, I don't know. I feel really irrationally good about making him a lower owned tournament priority for me. And I think even more so now. What about you?
So I am right now just looking through the Celtics rotation and running some updates here. I actually don't think I'm really going to be getting to Tristan Thompson. He is pretty expensive. He's $5,200 on DraftKings. He's $5,800 on Fanduel. If he was back down in like the $4,000, $4,200 price range, then yeah, I think I'd have interest in Tristan Thompson. But where he stands right now, I'm just going to rerun the lineups after updating it. But I mean, I have Tristan Thompson for 25.5 fantasy points right now, and I doubt that's going to be enough for me to get to him, especially on a slate with this much value.
Yeah, okay. I'm looking at 5,200. I mean, it's more of just like who else can possibly play front court minutes? I mean, it's Luke Cornett. Are we looking at Luke Cornett? I don't think so. So maybe it is kind of just a wash. I'm kind of waiting for it all to update, and I don't know. It still feels like Tristan Thompson. He hasn't played since the 2nd. So I mean 5 days ago, but should have minutes upside. He was playing low 30s. He played 33, 34 up until the return on the 23rd of Robert Williams. So I think there are low 30s upside there. So I'm still going to get to a tiny bit of 5,200 on DK. FanDuel to 5,800. There's really no point.
All right, and most pressing now, and yeah, I just reread my lineups and I didn't get any exposure to Tristan Thompson. Before we moved on, this has been brought to my attention. I was told I have to ask you about your eyebrows. What's going on there?
Okay, so I tried to just like blow it off because you wanted to get serious. We were ready to go right off the bat, but you missed the eyebrow story.
This is serious. I don't know how you think this isn't serious.
So I mean, God, this is so much more nerve wracking because earlier on the tip off when I told this story, we didn't have 3,000 people here watching, but such is life. I had somebody in YouTube chat on one of my, like an earlier show that I did back in like January or so, who was like, you have really bushy eyebrows, and called me out about my eyebrows. And I got very self-conscious about it. And it was whatever. The next day, that same guy went into Twitter and DM'd me and was like, hey, micro-threading, like I was actually being serious. Sorry if you took it offensively, because like I made a joke about it on the show. And I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of weird, but thanks, no big deal or whatever. He's like, well, if you don't want to do that, get like a trimmer or do something. And I'm like, oh, okay, block, like just get out of my life. I thought about it for a couple months and I decided, you know what, I'll go get a trimmer. I'll try this out. So like 2 weeks ago Friday, I mean, I'm not wearing glasses for the heck of it. 2 weeks ago Friday, I was like, you know what, I'll try to, like, I was kind of like doing like a light trimming thing and like plucking, feeling out whatever for the self-maintenance of it. Where's it at?
Oh, you didn't do a good job at all, Eric. I don't know if anybody's told you that. Tyler with an
Tyler from the top rope.
That's it. That is an all-time. And by the way,
yeah,
I hope Jordan Klein isn't watching right now, but he needs to get on his sound drop game, because that Tyler right there, major addition to the show. All we get from Jordan is he like disappears sometimes in the background. We don't know where he goes. We don't know what he does. He kind of tilts his camera up sometimes. That's a little suspicious. Who knows what's going on underneath there? But here's also what I think we should do after we have this information. Guys, give Eric more just grooming tips. Like, what are your opinions on his hair? Do you think there's anything you should change about that? Because this seems like we could greatly influence Eric's life going forward. And I just think there's more grooming tips that we should be giving him going forward.
I couldn't even tell which side it was on because Zoom flips the camera and does whatever. But I'm like, yeah, it definitely, I mean, it is so bad. I messed it up so bad. I just kind of like went boop. And I was told it's a style, but not for me. So I have to not partake in such things ever again in my entire life. But my fiance has just been hammering me about it. But our solution was to use my glasses that I used to use for auditions and stuff. And they've been a trademark for the last 2 weeks and not by choice.
Yeah, and I think, listen, we've got Emacs bringing up a good point. Why aren't you wearing a pirate? You should be wearing a pirate patch. Wear an eye patch.
Oh, maybe you should do the tip off on Monday would be what I would recommend for such things. Not to plug future. Eric looks like Steve Marucci. This is so bad. I knew this was not going to go well. Thank you for bringing it up here. Not that we have rockets in 5 minutes or anything.
Thanks to Spags for bringing it to my attention. Thanks to everybody else in the YouTube chat that made a point. But yeah, that's important stuff.
Eric, to make you feel better, Ross K in chat said rappers do that on purpose. So
they do. Rappers do it on purpose. I was confused. My mama kissing a girl. Confusion.
Was the audience able to hear Tyler right then? Because if not, that becomes confusing.
No, they were just saying that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it is what it is. Mom's.
They heard him.
I was gonna say I did this mom's. There was one day that I rapped Eminem and it became a mom spaghetti thing. I've Chalk Kent, Chalk Donkey, Mom Spaghetti / Lindquist. Those are the 4 here at the time. Oh my Lord. It is. It'd be one thing if somebody did this to me, but I kind of do it to myself and I'm okay with that.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like your hair color's always bothered me a little bit. If I'm just being honest, like I've always looked at you and be like, Eric with frosted tips, that would be way cooler. It's just a thought that I have from time to time. I think there should be.
I see what you're doing and it's not working.
We'll see. I think.
But anyway, that's the story. Good times. Kermit the Rapper. Forgot Kermit. Forgot the whole Muppet narrative. Kermit Frog here. Here we are.
All right. By the way, some news.
Yeah.
Jimmy Butler will play. Tyler Hero will play. We also have some super chats here. So let's hit on the super chats. Then we could circle back, get to the Heat news. Also, if anybody has some suggestions what they would like Eric's hair to look like, I think we should throw those into the YouTube chat as well. But for now, from he told me how to pronounce his name the other day and I forgot. A.V. Schreier. I remember he spelled it out like really long. It was something along those lines. But Baller Ball on Fanduel tonight. Which of the balls is your preference?
Definitely like Lonzo. Why would I be? Yeah, definitely Lonzo. Like, I don't think it's remotely close between the two.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously for the year, LaMelo has been the better fantasy producer, but look at this fantasy situation they have going on right now in New Orleans, where I kind of doubt at this point that Brandon Ingram or Zion Williamson are going to play for the rest of the season. This team falling out of the playoff race after losing the other day to the Warriors, or a couple of games to the Warriors, and now at this point, I just think it's full tank mode. So Lonzo's going to have to play a pretty significant role for them going forward. It's not a great matchup against the Philadelphia 76ers, and it's definitely something that's going to come back up later because Joel Embiid, game time decision. Personally, I think Embiid's going to end up sitting, and that would mitigate some of the blowout risk in this game. But if we're just comparing Lonzo to LaMelo, Lonzo's the stronger option for today.
I do have a question. So are you getting to any LaMelo Ball?
No.
I'm not getting to any either, and maybe that's a problem. Maybe we should have a tiny bit because, I mean, if he gets up to that low 30s number, I mean, there's obvious upside there. I think that might have been a mistake for me here on my last run, so I think I'm going to add a tiny bit in. What is his tag back over here? Yeah, I'm going to get to, I mean, he's popular on FanDuel. I knew that, but I'm not playing very much on FanDuel today. But DraftKings, I think having a little bit makes sense.
Yeah, and I'll also clarify, I am also only playing on DraftKings, and I made a dummy build on FanDuel. This felt like a slate where hosting a show was going to be impossible to play on both FanDuel and DraftKings. We just have so many key names that are listed as questionable.
I will test that theory for you.
Especially that dumb Houston situation. So just going over because this is really going to be the real headache for today's slate is, well, other than the Sixers news, which is probably going to come out right before lock, but the Houston Rockets today. Eric Gordon's out, Kevin Porter Jr.'s out, Avery Bradley's out, John Wall's out, Sterling Brown's out, David Nwaba's out, Daniel House is doubtful, DJ Wilson is out. Then questionable, Christian Wood questionable, Kelly Olynyk questionable, Jayshawn Tate questionable, DJ Augustin questionable. So the guys that we know are in are Kenyon Martin Jr., Daquan Jeffries, Anthony Lamb, and Armani Brooks. So for sure, we know at least 4 players are going to be in there for the Rockets. And what does it matter, right? If they're going to go play 4 on 5 or whatever, like they're losing this game against the Bucks anyway. How are you handling that Rockets situation though? Before we get some more of the super chats,
late swap exists, so I'm very happy about that. Late swap exists, and I think we will all have enough guys. So just a lot of the studs. So you have Giannis sitting there at 8 p.m. You have Luka Doncic sitting at 8:30. You've got some guys like Jokic there at 9 o'clock. You've got Anthony Davis or Damian Lillard. If you want to go that direction, you have DeLon Wright. There's going to be a lot of roster spots that we have taken up with salary. So I think being able to mix and match. I mean, if Kelly Olynyk is in, he would be the guy that I want the most on the top end there because we have seen him be so productive, just over 1.2 DraftKings points per minute in his time here at Houston. And now you take like the possibility of having Christian Wood off the floor, like just kind of ridiculous. Now, if Jayshawn Tate ends up getting ruled in and he doesn't start, I'm not going to have him in my pool. I kind of have just like made a firm rule about that. There's enough value over here elsewhere. I think being able to confidently say, whoever's in the starting lineup for Houston, I'm going to feel good about. Whoever is not, I'm going to feel atrocious about. I think that's probably does that sound right?
Dude, I don't know what to make of this. There's especially because not all these guys are going to be rolled in, right? There's going to be a couple of them are going to be in, a couple are going to be out. Most likely we're going to see the Rockets with the minimum players available to field an actual NBA roster. And there's a chance also that they might just have 8 guys active and only 6 of them play. It is impossible to not get some exposure to the Rockets. I right now lean towards Anthony Lamb and Daquan Jeffries just because of the price points on and Kenyon Martin Jr.
Think of what you just said out loud. Think about that.
Yeah, but that's
so hilarious.
Last slate, Kenyon Martin Jr. was uber chalk. It worked out, but there's a couple of things about this. Number one, they're all really cheap, but the other thing too is this is a game. Milwaukee's favored by 16.5 points. I don't know what Milwaukee's going to do. My gut feeling is that at least one of Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, or Giannis are going to get ruled out right before that game starts. It's such a widespread. What's the point of playing all 3 of them? But with that said, I don't think it's going to be competitive. However, I'm still looking at some of those cheap Rockets guys and saying like, hey, if they're playing a really thin rotation with potentially only, 7 guys who are actually able to play minutes, then those guys are going to have to play like 40 minutes anyway, and they're cheap. So it's hard to see a way where they would end up failing, but we'll see. And that game starts at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So once again, Eric and I are going to be going 30 minutes after lock, talking about the Yahoo baller contest. And let's see, what are they at on entries right now? Before, I think it's a 1,900 entry contest. Last I looked, I think they had 1,100 spots filled. And then once again, use the promo code Awesemo if you're making a first deposit on Yahoo, and you get $30 in the Yahoo fantasy points, like their version of the crowns. And that would be $30 in free play in those if you sign up as a new depositor on Yahoo. And let's see, currently there are...
I'll pull it up here too.
1,100, so about 800 entries left in that contest. So still some overlay there. Go fill it up, and hey, maybe it won't fill, and that's no better value than overlay. But all right, let's get back to some of these super chats here from Darren Unger. Fanduel question: Luka, Brooks, and Giannis. So I assume that's Armani Brooks. So Luka, Armani Brooks, Giannis Antetokounmpo, or Lonzo Ball, Buddy Hield, and Jason Tatum. The salaries, that doesn't seem like the salaries match. But anyway, Luka, Brooks, and Giannis for me.
Yep, same. I'm looking at it. I mean, I love Lonzo today, but yeah, I think it's got to be the first one. No, you know what? No, I'll go the second one. Lonzo, Hield, Tatum. I know the salaries don't match up, but Hield, I'm very unenthusiastic. But I talked about Tatum. I think there's some serious upside sitting there, and then going the direction of Lonzo just makes a lot of sense too. I do like both sides of it.
So, and by the way, talking about Giannis for a second, what did you do with him? Because for this slate, I looked at that game, I looked at the spread, and this is another one where I just kind of looked at it. This is very similar to how we viewed the Warriors game yesterday, where I said, hey, I think these guys could potentially do really well in three quarters, but it seemed unlikely the game would be competitive enough. A very similar spread. I think last night the Warriors Thunder game closed with a 15.5 point spread, and we're looking at 16.5 right now in this game. And even that 16.5 number, I think, probably assumes that one of the three stars on the Bucks ends up sitting. So I wanted to nerf the projection for Giannis, and I did. I brought his minutes down. But there's so much value on the slate that I could just kind of pay up at will, that even only giving Giannis, I think it was 53 DraftKings points I have him for, that still ended up with me getting him in like 40% of my lineups, just because there's so much value that the raw points kind of matter more than the pricing. So where did you end up with Giannis in terms of exposure? Is he a core piece for you, or somebody that you weren't really able to get to?
Oh yeah, I got more than you. Definitely.
Okay.
63% over on DraftKings, because that's where you're overplaying at. It just has to be a roulette of these value pieces. I don't see any way around it. There's going to be a couple that just smash. I don't know necessarily, like, I think it'll be Najee Marshall, James Johnson, Armani Brooks, Daquan Jeffries. We have so many pieces that are sitting there on the cheap end, specifically under 3,500. There's quite a few pieces that there's going to be so many that pop for 30, 35, and it becomes a raw point, jam it in kind of spot. And if you just sort to the top, like on Fantasy Cruncher, just to kind of give you an overlook of what I'm doing on this slate on a 10 gamer, I basically sorted it to the top end, and I am trying to get over top of the field on just about every single stud on the top end. That includes Karl Anthony Towns coming in with super low ownership. Jason Tatum, who's coming in under 10% over on DraftKings right now. Vooch, the hero of the people yesterday. My guy absolutely saved me because you're swaying for me over on FanDuel. He ended up around 6.8%. I think just finding a way to be over top of the field on nearly everybody on this top end makes way too much sense. Oh my dear God. Okay.
Giannis Antetokounmpo is now a game time decision. He's not. I'm going to say right now, I'd be very surprised if Giannis is not going to play.
Yeah,
so
rewind.
All right. So
everything we said wrong.
All right. A couple of things. Now we did get another super chat from our guy, Gene B. Kim. He's got some fashion advice for you, Eric. Hill's Beauty Salon on Western and Beverly does hair very well, Eric. Go there and say, Kermit my hair. And there you go. That's apparently good advice from, and by the way, Gene B. Kim, guy who's just been crushing in DFS over the last couple months or so. I assume that he knows all of the high end, salons at this point, because he's probably he's getting his hair done every day. He's getting his nails done and all that, because he's got unlimited funds right now. So I think this is a guy who should be taking advice to. He seems like he's got his stuff together.
Bummer. I got my haircut yesterday. It's going to be at least a month. It's going to be at least a month and a half probably until we get the Kermit look. So I apologize, but I appreciate the not sarcastic at all whatsoever super chat, my guy.
All right, let's get into. So, are we both in agreement now? I mean, obviously, it's a game time decision for Giannis, so a lot could, a lot could change. I don't know definitively he's going to be out. My gut feeling as of now is certainly that Giannis more likely to sit than play. So, I mean, it's a thing. Oh, well, I mean, let's see. What is the actual news here?
I mean, Chris Middleton's $8,900 over on DraftKings. I mean, that's a large number. So it's like, what am I even going to get to him? Like, he's been so inconsistent. Let's see, the last couple where he's had him out. Yeah, he had a 52.5. He traditionally, like last year, was just smashing every time, but Drew Holiday cuts into his production so much there. But Drew, 8,600. Yeah, I'll get to a lot of Drew Holiday there.
All right, so here is the official tweet the official tweet. Here's what news god El Negro Loco, our guy Ron, here's what he posted in our premium Slack chat. This is the tweet. Coach Budenholzer says that Giannis' stomach flu will warm up and they'll monitor how he feels in determining if he'll go tonight. Now, to me, like, what's the point of playing him, right? It's a game against and also we just got done saying also it's a game with a 16.5 point spread. And I said, I had a feeling one of these three guys is going to get rolled out. And just like that, we get this, kind of wonky news on Giannis that I doubt is even real.
Do you think it's one of those things where if Christian Wood plays, Giannis plays, and if Christian Wood doesn't play, that Giannis does not play as well? Could that be part of it? Where they're like, hey, let's just see what Houston ends up doing and we'll react to it.
I don't think that's it. Because even if, legitimately, if Christian Wood is in, does that really impact? Obviously, he's much better than the other piece of garbage that are on that roster. But does that materially change the Rockets' chance of winning that game?
No, I mean, it doesn't change it whatsoever. Like, they're terrible. And I wrote a little bit last night on the Slate Start article how excited I am to get to the playoffs. Like, yeah, it's going to be a bummer not to have, big 8, 9, 10 game slates here going forward. But how nice is it going to be not to have the words rest next to players at any point in time? How nice is it going to be not to have to deal with Houston and the Pistons and like all of these teams that just have no business playing basketball right now? The Thunder, like what is going on?
All right. So here's something funny. The Rockets have won once in their last 9 games. Do you know who that win was over?
The Rockets. Hang on. They have one win. They broke the streak of they had lost 20 in a row or something. Who did they beat? It was like a decent team. The Raptors.
It was the Bucks. So they've one win in their last 9 games.
You were leading
they beat
me
the
too.
Bucks. 143-136. The Bucks won that game. The Rockets won that game. Giannis did end up starting, but he only played 4 minutes in that game. So take that for what it's worth. To your point, what you said, Middleton is really expensive. It's the thing. I'm just going to see what number one what actually ends up happening with Giannis, what ends up happening with all the Houston guys, and then make some changes. But as of now, I'm going to assume that Giannis ultimately ends up not playing. Let's see. What are the price tags for these guys on FanDuel? We have Drew Holiday at 8,100 on FanDuel, Chris Middleton at 8,400. I think both of those are pretty playable price tags, though they're not anything that's crazy value. On DraftKings, 8,900 for Middleton, like you said, 8,600 for Drew Holiday. Those are just kind of reasonable price tags. I actually don't think there's a need to play those guys at those kind of salaries if Giannis doesn't play. So they definitely be in my player pool, but probably not guys that I'm getting to, more than 15% or so.
Yeah, it's just, oh man. This slate is incredible. This slate is incredible. It's also awful at the same time for DraftKings and FanDuel. Again, Yahoo, you get to avoid this New Orleans one. We get to actually probably have a better idea. I think the slate will be a lot clearer to me after 7:00 because I think that's when we'll get all of this news based on these Houston guys, based on Giannis, and we'll have a lot better idea of where to go. Yeah, I think I'm with you. Middleton, I'm not going to get to a ton of. Drew, 8,600 is expensive. I would rather, again, we're going to be spending up. We have unlimited amount of salary to be spending on this slate. I'm going to be playing Luka. I'm going to be playing all those guys. And I remember that one ridiculous Wednesday where it was very similar to this, where all the studs failed. That would be kind of the path of Drew and Middleton more so on this slate than anything else. But yeah, if you take Giannis off the floor, you're still going to get to him, but maybe not the 20% or they won't be 40% owned like they would be on a regular slate.
And then let me see, what are Bobby Portis's numbers? Somebody had brought up him, and he's fairly reasonably priced, 5,600 and 5,400 across the two sites. I assume that Bobby Portis would start in place of Giannis, and Portis as a starter this year is averaging. Oh yeah, Bobby Portis would definitely be in play. 29.5 minutes per game for Bobby Portis as a starter, averaging 36.36 DraftKings points in those starts. So Portis would certainly be in play if Giannis ultimately ends up getting ruled out. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I stupidly just added 20 more lineups over on FanDuel because I was I need to get exposure to different tiers of guys here across all three sites. And Bobby Portis on FanDuel was the number one guy popping up for me when I took Giannis off the floor. So I'm going to probably have him as my highest owned power forward.
All right. And something else, less important news item, but just kind of something I thought was Interesting is that Donovan Mitchell was reevaluated today, and no real significant change in status. They're just going to reevaluate him next week. So just something that has a little bit of implications for futures there. Who knows if maybe Donovan Mitchell won't be ready for the start of the NBA playoffs. That would be a pretty big deal. But all right, let's see. You know what we didn't hit on was the Miami news. So so much news comes across in the super chats, and it's easy to get a little sidetracked. I take notes on what I want to talk about and then get lost in it sometimes. But anyway, Tyler Hero and Jimmy Butler, they are both going to be playing tonight. What do you make of the Heat? Is there anybody on this team that you want to get exposure to?
Complete write-off. We can move on. I was going to jam a lot of Bam again. Somebody had the audacity to come at me on Twitter and say that my call on Bam Adebayo cost them tons of money. Although, one, I won a 30,000 person GPP on DraftKings with Bam in the lineup, and two, finished top 10 on Fanduel with Bam in the lineup, where it's like, that was not the reason that you won or lost that slate whatsoever. And plus, anytime Jimmy Butler's out, he sees a spike to his usage, sees a spike to his assist rate. That's the main thing that I see. And then right around a 17% rebound rate. That is not going to be something I want to get to. Right around 1.33 with Jimmy Butler off the floor. But with him on, he's underneath that number to around 1.22, and I'm not going to get there whatsoever.
I am going to have some exposure to Jimmy Butler now that he is in. Not as a core player or anything like that, but there are so many guys to pay up for on the slate, and especially now, if I'm assuming I'm not going to get to, if we don't have Giannis to pay up for. Jimmy Butler, I mean, for sure he's expensive, but we have to spend that salary somewhere with all of the value that's on the slate. So that's kind of what just gets me to him. Even if I don't think he's the best points per dollar play, like I said, I mean, raw points are way more important on this slate than actual points per dollar. So assuming that you're now taking Giannis out of your player pool, or at least putting a little bit of caution there, like, who do you think you're going to be paying up for?
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably gonna. I probably will get to some Jimmy Butler now that I'm looking at that. Haven't reran my lineups here yet. Bouncing around, just kind of setting everything up. Small forward, I was gonna get to a lot of Luka at that position over on DraftKings. Over on FanDuel, I mean, what else are you going to be paying up for at small forward? I mean, he's kind of the guy to be going to at 9,400. You have no LeBron James on the slate. Anthony Edwards is 8,800. No thanks. Chris Middleton is 8,400. I'll probably get to some of that here now for sure. But like, Jimmy Butler is your priority spend up at small forward along with Chris Middleton.
All right. So some news that's pretty surprising me. Joel Embiid will play today. So I'm going to circle back on the pay up options. But first, let's go over to the Sixers now. With news that Embiid is in, I don't really have interest in much of anything from the Philadelphia 76ers. I think they should just absolutely smash the Pelicans now. I mean, a game where it already had a double-digit spread, and I assume at that point was kind of assuming that was because Joel Embiid was more likely to sit. Like, this is a game, I don't know why they're playing him. To me, this is another one that makes no sense. With the Pelicans missing Brandon Ingram, missing Zion Williamson, I assume both of them are going to be out for the remainder of the regular season. To me, this seems like a pretty big risk by throwing Embiid out here in a game that doesn't matter, but I think there's a pretty good chance he plays limited minutes. So Embiid, I'm not going to be getting exposure to. I thought I was going to get to Ben Simmons, Tobias Harrison, Dwight Howard, but that's no longer the case for me.
The fantasy gods are kind. We just got some massive news. Jae'Sean Tate out. Christian Wood out. Kelly Olynyk available.
Okay, so a couple of the
Danwell House available.
So we have the Rockets news. We've got some super chats starting piling up, and Pelicans starting lineup. Lonzo Ball, Eric Bledsoe, Najee Marshall, James Johnson, and Willie Hernan Gomez. So let's hit the super chats, and then we can get to that Rockets news. Rashad Nichols asking thoughts on DeMar DeRozan. I do not think I'm going to be playing DeMar DeRozan today. There's a lot.
I was going to when the slate started, and I'm not getting there like whatsoever. I have like 4% in 190 lineups on DraftKings.
Yeah, just the issue is, once again, there's so much value on this slate now. It's going to be, once again, stars and scrubs slate. Almost every slate at this time of year sets up as stars and scrubs, because ultimately, by the time we get 20 minutes to lock, 10 guys have gotten ruled out, and there's a bunch of guys who are viable for cheap. And it's easy enough to just pay up to the point where I never feel it's all that optimal to go to DeMar DeRozan when I, have enough salary to be able to pay up for the real stars on the slate. So for me, DeMar DeRozan isn't going to be in my player pool. And then we had one other super chat. Where'd it go? Here it is. From Abram Colton. He's asking, what's the question? FanDuel single. Oh, okay. Never mind. I missed a part of that. FanDuel single entry. Who should he play as his center? And then he says, thanks. So let's see. At this point, who do I think is the overall best center play? And I'll start with you here, Eric. Who do you think is the overall best center play on FanDuel?
So he said single entry, top center play.
Yes.
Who would I be playing? I mean, Bam Adebayo is your chalk. Or sorry, not Bam Adebayo. Mohamed Bamba. I'm now not going to be very heavy on Bam Adebayo whatsoever. That was my last run where I was assuming Jimmy Butler was going to be out. I had to change a bunch of things for that. I'm going to be getting just about no Bam at his current ownership here at this point in time, which is sad because I really liked it before. I think, Mo Bamba is definitely your clear runaway guy. I like Guillermo Hernan Gomez, not to completely screw both of those guys up. Very different plays. Do not play the Juancho, play the Guillermo. Really like Guillermo Hernan Gomez against Philly here. Yeah, he could get 2 fouls and be just completely screwed here, but 4,900, he's going to have to play a bunch of minutes here at the 5. He's about the only hope. It's not going to be Jackson Hayes out there trying to guard Joel Embiid, and Hernan Gomez can't really do it either, but I think there's at least some offensive upside for him there. So I think underneath 10%, 4,900 allows for me to get studs elsewhere. I'm probably going to do a little bit of that.
All right. And now let's see, did that cover by the way, I think Willie Hernan Gomez is a really good contrarian option. Overall, the best center play though, to me on both sites, it has to be Mo Bamba. He's such a good points per minute fantasy producer. He's also starting to get more minutes now at this point in time. So Bamba, the big thing here is that Wendell Carter Jr. is out. He's dealing with an eye injury. Rumor is that he shaved part of his eyebrow out. He was too embarrassed. He couldn't play NBA basketball anymore. So that in mind, Mo Bamba starting, and it's really hard to think anything other than he's just going to crush until anything changes, because Mo Bamba started last game, didn't even get a ridiculous amount of minutes. He played 31 minutes, all reasonable, over 50 fantasy points. And that's just what he's going to keep doing going forward. Because if you look at Mo Bamba's rates for the year, 15 minutes per game, 19.04 DraftKings points in those minutes. So now we're looking at Bamba as a guy who's going to pretty regularly be playing somewhere around 30 minutes. And if you give Mo Bamba 30 minutes, that probably means somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 plus fantasy points. So
if you give a mouse a cookie, he's going to want some fantasy stats to go with it for sure.
Especially when the starting center is out with his eyebrow mishap. But I
hate everything. It's fine.
That's what happened. What do you want?
Did you end up playing baseball today? I have to ask, because this is there was no
chance. It's like a 14 game baseball slate. I'm doing this, and then we've got the Yahoo show afterwards. Like I just
uploaded my Yahoo MLB lineups here because I write my article for them on Fridays as well, and so I was just curious if you were going through the same widespread panic that I was, but apparently you are smarter than me. That's a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying not to extend myself too much, right? We've got this ridiculous NBA show, all this going on. We've got this great contest on Yahoo that we're trying to promote, the NBA Baller Contest, where if you use the promo code Awesemo to sign up, you get $30 in Yahoo rewards points by signing up, and we're trying to fill that. And there was just no way. We can't be playing, what am I, EMAC on the show? He's playing like esports. He's playing like European basketball while he's doing NBA Live Before Lock show. It's too much going on. I can only focus on so many things, but all right, let's see. So now we want to hit on the Houston news. So the Houston Rockets, let's get a recap there. So Houston, we currently have.
I mean, it got weird, didn't it? Yeah.
So here's officially who is in and out for the Houston Rockets. Christian Wood is out. Jayshawn Tate is out. Eric Gordon is out. Dante Exum is out. Kevin Porter Jr. is out. Avery Bradley's out. John Wall is out. Sterling Brown is out. David Nwaba is out. DJ Wilson's out. Those are the guys who are not playing. All right, now who's actually available? I want to count how many guys there are. Kelly Olynyk, Kenyon Martin Jr., Daquan Jeffries, Anthony Lamb, Armani Brooks, DJ Augustine, Kyrie Thomas, and Daniel House. So they have 9 available players today. Oh boy. So let's
hold on to your butts.
Kelly Olynyk, 8,000 on FanDuel. Very exorbitant price tag. Any interest at that kind of salary?
Yes.
Really?
Kelly Olynyk, yeah.
At 8,000.
Yes, I have a lot of Kelly Olynyk interest. Yes.
I don't know.
I got to make sure he's in the starting lineup. If he's in the starting lineup, I'm going to have a lot of Kelly Olynyk. I'm not going to even lie to you. Like, I'm going to.
Oh, you know what's really funny? As we're talking about this, sold up 1, 2, 3, 4 with the super chat. What's up, my guys? Happy Friday to you, handsome young men. Ooh, look at that. Somebody likes a faded eyebrow. For FanDuel, what are your thoughts on Olynyk, and what would be your preferred pay-up options on FanDuel? So, hey, perfect. We're already talking about Kelly Olynyk. To me, the 8,000 price tag it's not that if you roster him, I wouldn't have an issue with it. I don't know that I'm going to get to him at 8,000 though. And here's somebody who's forward and center eligible that I'm uncomfortably getting to on DraftKings right now, Anthony Davis. And I understand Anthony Davis not playing well recently. Kelly Olynyk is. Everybody's out right now for Houston. Mm-hmm. But you mean to tell me Kelly Olynyk is only, what is it, $1,400 or $1,800 cheaper than Anthony Davis? Anthony Davis, $9,800. Kelly Olynyk is $8,000. Honestly, by the way, Anthony Davis right now project for 2% ownership. Kelly Olynyk, I assume, is going to pick up some ownership now. Is Kelly Olynyk really that much more likely to wind up in the alpha lineup than Anthony Davis? Like, to me, I think that this is, it's a little crazy with the price point where it's gotten to Kelly Olynyk, and I assume is going to be ownership on him.
All right, we're gonna play a game here. Okay, we're gonna play a game. I'm gonna give you two players. Okay, I've got player number 1, and I've got player number 2. Okay, and I'm trying to think of how I can preface this so that I don't lead you in one direction or the other. I want it to be as unbiased as I possibly can. Okay, this is the last month for a player. Okay, this is the last month. 1.32 DraftKings points per minute. Okay, a rebounding rate of 15.5%. And an assist percentage of 38. No, that's not him. 32.6%. Okay, that's player number 1.
Okay, so that's Kelly Olynyk.
Well, okay. Well, I hate you. See, that's not fun. That player that I just described is an absolute ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And I was taking John Wall off the floor for that instance and taking Christian Wood off the floor, which are two things that we have. I think they are by far. And then I was just going to read you off over the last month. You take LeBron James off the floor. I mean, Anthony Davis does not look like that whatsoever. Usage rate right now, 33.7%. That's great. Like, been pretty darn good. DraftKings points per minute, 1.15, okay, over the last month, and that's with LeBron off the floor. Rebounding rate, sitting all the way down at 11.4%. You know why? Andre Drummond exists. So I have no desire to be going to Anthony Davis. I think his upside is so unbelievably capped by Andre Drummond's rebounding rate that there aren't even like words for it. So I would rather have Kelly Olynyk in 10. Like if I was making 10 lineups, I'd rather have Kelly Olynyk in 10 than Anthony Davis in 1.
Okay, I feel differently. And by the way, obviously, Anthony Davis has been absolutely awful so far since coming back from the injury, and I don't think that he's healthy right now. And he only played 9 minutes yesterday. By the way, the injury to Anthony Davis yesterday rolls his ankle and gets ruled out with back spasms. I don't know what that's about. That made zero sense. So obviously, there's a whole lot of risk involved. But here's something that I've talked with Josh England about a couple times over the last week when I've done live before lock with him. Is he's been somewhat high on Anthony Davis lately. I have not been yet, but I have acknowledged that Anthony Davis is still a very good fantasy producer. And at some point, there's going to be a slate to be on him. There's going to be a time where Anthony Davis has a big game, and I'd rather be on it beforehand than be late on it. And I just look at the overall status of this slate and the guys to pay up for. Luka's an obvious one, right? Like we were going to want to get to a lot of Luka. Everybody's going to want to get to Luka. I want to get to a lot of Jokic. Right now, I'm assuming that Giannis doesn't play. I don't want him in my player pool. Joel Embiid, I think that game is pretty likely to be a blowout. This is a very, very important game for the Los Angeles Lakers, to the point where if the Lakers lose tonight, they're almost certainly in the play-in game. So if there was ever going to be a game where Anthony Davis, gets pushed to play big minutes and they really bump up his usage rate, I think this is it. So there's nothing in the last month that's going to tell me to play Anthony Davis other than I'm looking at the spot the Lakers are in right now, where they're currently tied with the Portland Trail Blazers for the final play-in spot in the West. The Lakers have made it very clear. They want nothing to do with that play-in game. LeBron's ready to get whoever came up with the play-in idea, he wants them kicked out of the NBA. And I think that this is a game where the Lakers are probably going to lean pretty heavily on Anthony Davis in order to do whatever they can to avoid that play-in game.
I'm there with you. I completely agree with you. I mean, last night that was the entire article, like was me talking about this Portland Lakers game. They're both 39 and 27. That's 6-7. Being a 7 seed is not good this year. If you win one of your 2 games, you're in, but you're definitely at risk at not even making the playoffs. And that's a quick exit, quick hook. And I think more than anything, they've got to be prioritizing Anthony Davis's health as well. If he goes out and he's not right, if he's because he ended up sitting out that game yesterday. I know everybody saw the ankle sprain, but we have the local feed over here, and it was back spasms he ended up sitting out with. It was something else that didn't even have to do with the ankle sprain that was initially thought to be the thing that let him out. And how hard can you push Anthony Davis here in this spot?
I think you can push him pretty hard. So here's actually what I think happened yesterday. He played 9 minutes. They were absolutely getting waxed by the Clippers. It was not a competitive game. So when he first rolled his ankle and he briefly went to the locker room, I think they went and checked him out. He said he was fine, and they said, here's what we're going to do. We're just going to hold you out for the rest of the game. We're going to make up a fake injury, and you're going to be ready to play tomorrow against the Portland Trailblazers in a game that actually matters, that we need to win. I think if that game was any bit more competitive against the Clippers, or if it was the game last night, they're playing against the Blazers and he rolls his ankle like that, I think he just comes back and plays. And we've seen Anthony Davis he's going to go to the locker room again tonight, by the way. It could be at halftime. He could be injured at some other point.
So I'm taking that off the top of the 40 minutes that you're giving him, putting him at 35 for a mandatory locker room visit.
Yeah, so I don't think he's going to play 40 minutes, but I think he's going to play more than the, 32, 33 minutes he's been playing as of late. And yeah. I think that this is the time and this is the slate that makes sense for me to get on Anthony Davis, especially because the ownership is so low. If he was picking up any ownership, I'd feel differently. He's 2%. He's not in 50% of my lineups. He's in more than 2% of my lineups now.
Okay, that's fine. And the thing I like about playing Anthony Davis is it gives you late swappability as well. Like if there's other plays that show up from injuries, and we'll see the Caruso and everything else, like if somebody ends up getting ruled out later on, you get to wait on that news and you get really low owned pieces, and you need salary and you need roster spots for that. So prioritizing Anthony Davis is fine, but I'd be very surprised if I showed up with like even 6% Anthony Davis tonight. But what I'm basically saying is that in a vacuum, like Kelly Olynyk, the whole point of this entire process that we're talking about, like Kelly Olynyk has been outrageous by every metric over the last month with Christian Wood and John Wall off the floor. And that's really what I'm banking on here again tonight. I don't see anybody else who's going to be playing center minutes like Jayshawn Tate. Like that would have been a guy that could have taken away minutes. Kenyon Martin is not big enough. He's not going to be doing that whatsoever. Anthony Lamb can't really. Like Kelly Olynyk is going to play 40 minutes more than likely in this spot, and I'm just going to have a truck full of him. And if he sinks me, great. But I think the ownership comes in so much lower than before. I haven't projected for 48 fantasy points right now. I'm not sure where our numbers come in on him right now, but I just plug in basically fantasy point per minute rates, projected minutes. I have 42 for him right now. I don't know who else could possibly play center.
I think, well, number one, I think they're just gonna get their asses kicked, and it doesn't even matter. I think there's just gonna be a point in the game where they're just like, hey, Taquan Jeffries is playing center minutes. Kenny Martin Jr. is playing center minutes.
I would actually love that. I would love that.
But you get to a point where it doesn't matter, right? They're going to get their asses kicked by the Bucks tonight. So I don't think that Kelly Olynyk has to play almost the entire game. I think he's going to play a ton, but I think there's guys I'd rather pay up for at 8,000 on this slate. And by the way, Kelly Olynyk isn't right now the latest run of ownership. Not that popular. We have him at around 10% ownership right now on Draftkings. On Fanduel, Kelly Olynyk is coming up with only 4% ownership. So it's not like he's a popular play as of now. I think the price is a little bit too high. I have him projected for 39 fantasy points right now.
Man, the chalk donkey making a contrarian play right now, 0.4% over on Fanduel at center at 8K. Oh, we are about to get really, really weird today. I might have to lose my nickname forever after this one.
Yeah, well, I mean, both of us. You're playing Kelly Olynyk. I'm playing Anthony Davis. This is gonna go poorly, right?
No, there's absolutely no way that we make money today at this point. But you know what? The fun thing is that we are going to get everybody else enthusiastic. They can, if you want to, like, misery loves company. Like, come along the Kelly Olynyk train with me here today. Get heavy on Kelly Olynyk. Let's all have fun. That's what, at least it's Friday. I don't have to work tomorrow. So I can, take it out however I want. I can either go out and celebrate and drink, or I can, commiserate and drink. So pretty stoked about my prospects.
So now here's the other question. We have all this Rockets news. Which of the value plays are you prioritizing? I'm rerunning my lineups as we speak.
It's 10 minutes before and I have no idea who I'm playing. Isn't that great? Like, I have no idea.
I don't really know either. I'm going to know in a couple minutes, though, after I'm done updating.
Answer, this. James Johnson and Najee Marshall, for sure.
Yes.
35% Alex Caruso, and that's kind of a placeholder. So I've already thought about my late swaps. I think Kentavious Caldwell-Pope on DraftKings is 200 less. I'm pretty sure that he goes. It would really suck to get stuck with Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, but whatever. He would at least be the swap off of it. I think because the unpredictability there that people might not be going to Caruso in any kind of a meaningful way. On Yahoo, especially, he's $10. And I think being able to take a shot or two on him, he just kind of provides a little bit of a salary relief over there when you don't have the Pelicans game. And, we'll be playing a bunch of Houston Rockets there as well. But I like getting to a little bit of Caruso at $10 on Yahoo as well.
All right. We have a couple super chats here to answer. First, our guy Sold Up 123 coming back. He's asking Lonzo or Giroux, Holiday, that is, with Giannis potentially out. I prefer Lonzo right now.
I prefer Lonzo as well.
Yeah, and by the way, so Giannis is potentially out. We already know that Ingram and Zion are both out. So to me, Lonzo is the priority there. From our guy Noah Dekumis, he's asking KJ Martin and Kyle Kuzma or Bojan Bogdanovic and Bobby Portis. KJ Martin to me is a very, very high priority play now.
EMAC coming in with dad jokes 9 minutes before lock. He's against the brow and the brow. Okay, yeah, no. I would fade my brow myself. Or is it fade? Is that what it's considered?
I don't know. I think that's exactly what you did.
Okay, yeah, well, oops. Not great. Not great. My fiance is like, where are the glasses when we're cuddling? Yeah. She's just, look at this. This is so bad. It's so bad. Whatever. We're back.
Do you agree with me, by the way, on that one?
Oh, I didn't even listen to you.
It was
What'd you say?
KJ Martin and Kyle Kuzma or Bojan Bogdanovic and Bobby Portis.
Well, I love Bobby Portis. Like, I love Bobby Portis, but probably the first one. Is that what you went with?
Yes.
That's what I would go with too. But I need to have the caveat out there that I have a ton of Bobby Portis in anticipation that Giannis does not play.
All right. I have 10% Anthony Davis right now. It's a number that I feel fairly confident in. I think it's a good amount of exposure, but if he has a bad game, it's whatever. I have been 10% in my lineup.
Okay. Can we actually, I think this is a fun one. We got to find something that we can put on this. I mean, we have a while to figure out what the stakes are. Maybe YouTube chat can help us out with it, but Greg and I need a bet for Kelly Olynyk versus Anthony Davis. And I'll go straight up raw fantasy points.
Okay.
I think that seems fair. I feel like you get a little bit of the advantage because it's Anthony Davis and he's much more expensive. But Kelly, I'll just go straight up. I feel that good about Kelly Olynyk today.
Quick producer suggestion: if Greg loses, he has to do his eyebrows like yourself. That's just quick. That's just off the top.
Whoa. That's okay. Go ahead. Okay,
I was gonna say I think that if whichever one of us wins comes up with a bit for the other one to do on Monday's tip-off show.
Booked.
All right. I think that's good.
And DraftKings scoring, correct?
Yeah, DraftKings scoring.
Okay. Or should we say Yahoo scoring? Because this is sponsored by Yahoo. We'll do Yahoo.
All right. Fair enough. Yeah. Yahoo scoring. And it doesn't matter because Anthony Davis is outscoring on every site anyway.
Okay. Kelly Olynyk versus Anthony Davis. Chat, let me know what you want me to have Greg do on Monday.
All right, there we go. And by the way, I think, look at this. We're promoting the sponsor of the show, Yahoo, who, by the way, running the Big Baller contest. We're doing a Yahoo Fantasy Points, whichever one of them scores more. And let's see, where are we at with the contest and how many spots are left? The other thing also is if you go and make a deposit on Yahoo, use the promo code Awesemo, and you get $30 in the Yahoo rewards points. That is what's equivalent to $30 in the Yahoo rewards points. And there's still some spots left in Yahoo's big contest today, which overall, $35,000. It's $5,000 to first place, $5,000 MGM Vegas getaway. That's all included with the first place. And currently spots available, about 600, 1,900 spots in the contest, and about 1,300 of them filled so far. So right around 600 spots left there. Go fill it up before we finish the show today. And then 5 minutes here. So, Eric, are your lineups updated? And
absolutely not. I am freaking out. We're having fun. We'll do it live. How about that?
This is mine are actually up for now. They're going to end up changing later in the day.
Well, how nice for you, Greg. Thanks for sharing.
So things that I am getting to that I did not expect. I played 5% of Joel Embiid. Just a lack of guys to pay up for on the slate. So I got to a very small percentage of Joel Embiid. I also assume he's going to pick up no ownership today. Like I said, the 10% exposure to Anthony Davis. some other guys. You talked before about Alex Caruso. I have him in a few lineups right now, and I do. But here's something that really changed the way that I'm looking at the Lakers and Alex Caruso as a whole right now. We have all this value on the Houston Rockets that I'm getting to right now that I'm not sure somebody's going to open up from the Lakers that I like more than guys like Anthony Lamb, Daquan Jeffries, KJ Martin Jr., Armani Brooks. To me, all of those guys are higher priorities than Alex Caruso or whoever else I would end up getting to on the Lakers.
Okay, I agree with that, but that's the reason that you do play Alex Caruso is what I'm saying, is that he's going to end up so low owned compared to what he was going to be. Like, do you think he's still going to be jumping up meaningfully enough in optimizers that people are going to be playing a ton of Alex Caruso? Like, do you think he even sniffs like 8-10% at this point?
We have him projected for 9% right now on Fanduel. Mm-hmm. And on Draftkings, we have him projected for 17%.
Okay, then I'm probably going to be lighter on him. You are correct. I'm finishing up my FanDuel lineups, and I was getting to a little bit over the field there, so that's why I was saying such things.
So for reference right now, Anthony Lamb we have projected for almost the exact same ownership as Alex Caruso. I have Anthony Lamb is $600 cheaper on DraftKings, and I have him projected for more fantasy points.
Okay. I think that is
actually let's bring up let me refresh this. Let's see what we have for Houston Rockets ownership and all the guys here, and let's see what we have for the latest ownership. Let's see if so new one from a couple minutes ago, and the Houston Rockets guys, Kelly Olynyk now up to 28% ownership. No longer low owned. Kelly Olynyk is 14% on FanDuel, 28% on DraftKings. Eric, thoughts?
I'm going to have more.
Okay.
I'm going to have way more. I'm going to have, I told you I have him for 48 fantasy. Okay. Our projection just jumped 8 points on him too. He's up to 44 there. It's not like they're listening to me. They don't care what Kelly Olynyk was a smash. And I hope you're coming around to how much of a smash Kelly Olynyk it is today. And if he fails, but you know what? You know what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lock him in now on DraftKings. Wow. I'm going to have 100%. Right. I'm going to lock Kelly Olynyk in my lineups. That's what I'm going to do.
But this is such an unnecessary part of the wager. But hey, if you feel that strongly, go ahead and do it. I think.
Okay, no, I'm going to get 95%.
Yeah.
I'm a coward.
obviously, I get it, right?
Yeah.
It's just that, once again, I don't have him projected some outrageous points per dollar play personally. And I even think that if he goes out and scores 46 fantasy points, I don't even think that's good enough for this slate. Because I think that there's so much value at this point that those raw points are going to be so important that getting 46, 47 fantasy points for Kelly Olynyk, I don't think likely it lands him in the optimal, because there's going to be a bunch of guys priced in the 34, 3,500 range that go out and score 25 to 30 fantasy points. And then it's just going to be, all right, Kelly Olynyk versus Anthony Davis, Kelly Olynyk versus Joel Embiid, Kelly Olynyk versus some of those other guys. And I that's why I ultimately think that it's not all that likely he lands in the optimal lineup, because the price savings that he offers over those guys, I don't think matters for this night.
Okay, well, keep talking, because I don't think I'm going to get my lineups in, which would be really, really bad, because they're all Pelicans here. Go,
that would
Cruncher, go Cruncher, go Cruncher, go Cruncher, go. All right,
but this is the biggest.
This is the sweat of the night right here.
This is the most exciting thing that's going to happen, and then
obviously I'm not going to get it.
Oh, no, this is terrible. But hey, guys at home, we're going to get to see Eric. We've seen Eric get upset on 30-minute shows we've done after lock again. By the way, we've got Tyler behind the scenes. He's biting his nails. He's so nervous for Eric, but we're not going anywhere. Eric right now is white knuckling it. I could see him bending over, looking at his computer. But for the next 30 minutes, we could be seeing a downtrodden Eric talk about the Yahoo slate, because he wasn't able to get his lineups in. So here we go. We just hit lock. Eric, what is the status of your lineups?
Didn't get him in.
Oh no. So what do we do? Do you at least have what's the situation? Are you at least able to overwrite them? Were they dummy lineups? What was the deal? Do we have sad music to play, Tyler?
I have James Johnson in 100% of my lineups. So
that's not the worst. That's not the worst thing in the world.
Oh man, it just got really, really slow on my end. I have 3 crunchers that were going, and I was trying to update everything at once. You know what? It's okay, because that is why you were playing on Yahoo with the extra half hour. And that's why I have most of my exposure over there today. So we are going to be all right This is great. This is not Paul George 2.0, everybody. This is not Paul George 2.0.
With George Paul.
I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be fine. James Johnson, I hope you're the only piece who goes off today from that New Orleans game. That's unlikely.
So you know what we need to happen? If anybody who's tech savvy out there, the moment where I ask Eric, did you get your lineups in on time? And there's the pause where he kind of looks sad and says, no, we need the Titanic music playing in that moment right there.
Oh, man. Yeah. Oh, no. I have Ben Simmons locked.
How'd you end up with Ben Simmons locked?
Because I don't know. Because I was like trying out builds on something. I have 100%. Okay. So I thought I had 100% James Johnson. I don't even have James Johnson. I have 190 lineups of Ben Simmons today.
But you rostered some random stuff, didn't you?
This is bad. This is really, really bad. Oh, no. Oh, no. No, 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 no.
You want to hear the good news?
No, I really don't. Go ahead. It's Yahoo time.
Your eyebrows look nice.
Hey, thank you so much. That they don't. They look terrible.
Oh, no, I forgot. They don't. They look like crap. Well, there's at least, hey, I wasn't able to convince you to dye your tips blonde. That's a nice positive.
Wow. What in the world? Did somebody just say James Johnson out? That's a lie, right? Because can I give them the no on that?
I'm almost positive that's not correct. Okay. Yeah, that's not happened yet. I mean, now watch it get hurt 2 minutes into the game.
You go in timeout then. This is what I do. I get mad. And I tilt timeout people. That's
you guys, and nobody wants to sassy Eric, especially now when we have to talk about, we've got now 28 minutes to talk about Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports. And guys, they're partners with us now, at least for now on Fridays, as long as Eric is able to keep his cool tonight, they're going to stick around. And also, as long as we're able to fill up their NBA baller contest, $35,000 over on prize pools. We've got $5,000 first, also a $5,000 value getaway with MGM. And also, if you use the promo code Awesemo to sign up and you make your first ever deposit on Yahoo, you get $30 in free contest entries. Once again, that is using the promo code Awesemo. So right now, Eric, let's go. Let's open up the Yahoo pricing here, and let's go over some. Oh, all right, here we go. We've got a quick super chat to get to, and then we could open up the everything Yahoo after that. But Colorado Kane asking LaMelo Ball or DeJounte Murray on DraftKings. By the way, two guys I didn't get to either of them. But Paul, if I had to choose one.
Well, I'm late swapping my DraftKings lineups right now, and I'm getting 2% DeJounte Murray. So there's that. If that helps you whatsoever. It is so depressing looking at my late swap demise because it says 100% Ben Simmons at the top. It's just maybe the worst thing I've ever seen. If there was a day that he went for a triple-double, if he goes for a triple-double now, it's the most luck box thing that's ever happened in my life. And he's in my guard spot too. So he's not even at like a top end spot. So I'm all kinds of screwed up today. Whatever.
All right. And by the way, something else, some of the key news, let's go over some of the guys who are still uncertain to play. We have Giannis Antetokounmpo apparently dealing with a stomach bug. His status is up in the air. We have Kevin Love. He is questionable to play for a game in Dallas later today. Alex Caruso, the boss man himself, he is questionable to play, playing in Portland later today. Jay Crowder, he's questionable. Any of those news could come out during the next 26 minutes while we're doing the show. But hey, look at that. Another super chat right here. Soldope1234. Eric is so mad, clenching his jaw, that his eyebrow is growing back instantaneously. LMAOOO. Poor Eric. I'm sorry, bro. We love to mess with you, but not with Locke. Smile through. It's Friday.
Yeah, I'm going to tweet mistakes were made. Come like it and make me feel better at Eric Lindquist. There it is.
Here we go.
I was sitting on my laptop 5 minutes before lock. I thought I had enough time to be able to make the pivots that I needed. But I digress. I did not. No matter what. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say this was too complicated to pull up, but the thought in my head of how the bit would go is that we would Tyler would have some uplifting music, and I like fast forward to the future, like, but then Ben Simmons had a triple double, and then you go back and you're crying or whatever. We just go back and forth with the music, but yeah, that'd be a lot to go on. But anyway, that's how things work.
I thought that was pretty good personally. I mean, that was some major improv action. No, I didn't cry.
No, yeah. First of all, you keeping it together. I don't know how you're keeping it together. This is it. I know there's a little bit of experience here because you've already had to go through the Paul George thing on a post-lock show. So I think you were a little better, like just emotionally equipped for the situation. Because last time we went through this, it was a little hairy.
Yep. This is I'm a grown individual. If you want to see me, I am blossoming on air right before all of you. But I've had multiple people DM me, "Are you okay?" Yes, I'm going to be all right. I do appreciate you all. Let's get over to Yahoo. I want to give them the time they deserve, and I will cry to myself later tonight.
All right. So Yahoo, do you have the salaries pulled up in front of you, and are you ready to dive into this?
I'm ready to dive in. How much $38 Anthony Davis is too much $38 Anthony Davis?
I mean, listen, if I'm playing Anthony Davis at 9,800 on DraftKings, you best be sure that I like him at $38 is his salary on Yahoo. So I actually think that he's a pretty strong play. I'm 30. And this, by the way, this isn't even like me playing into Anthony Davis's contrarian play. I think at $38, that's a legitimately good price tag for Anthony Davis.
Yeah, he's not contrarian over on Yahoo for that reason. I think you're seeing some meaningfully they're being rostered at a pretty high rate over there. I really like getting to Anthony Davis at $38 over there. I think that's kind of, when I talk about playing multiple sites, that's something that Adam talks a lot about on the deeper dive. It just gives you exposure to different groupings of players, and you're not putting all of your outs into one basket. And if you have the projections that we have at Awesemo, and you're combining it with the kind of contest selection that Yahoo's giving you by having a smaller field $20 contest, that's probably I think it's probably going to get close to filling. But in the event that it doesn't, that's how you're building your bankroll, and that's how also it's just like a sustainable tournament for your bankroll. If you're making good decisions, if you're using Cruncher, if you're listening to the shows, you are ahead of the curve because there's going to be a lot of dead money in these kind of tournaments. All
right. What we should do here? By the way, guys, I haven't asked for it yet. Like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, especially do it for Eric, right? This has been a tough day for Eric. He's had things go not his way, but you know why he did it? He did it for you. He did it for the people at home. He's trying to put out the best content he possibly can at the expense of his own lineups at times, but this could work in his favor. If you guys like the video, here's what's going to happen. Ben Simmons is going to go out and drop a triple-double. Ben Simmons very closely pays attention to our YouTube channel. Like you think that the game has started and Ben Simmons is out there warming up? Incorrect. He's sitting on the bench watching our YouTube channel. He's going, how hard I play is going to depend on how many likes the Awesemo YouTube channel gets right now. And then that will obviously greatly help Eric in his lineups. But also, guys, go ahead and like the video. And we'll give out some of the ownership that we have right here projected for Yahoo. A lot of the chalk plays, somewhat similar to what we have on Fanduel and Draftkings, but there are also some ones that are a little bit different. I know that before Eric had mentioned that we have a little more ownership going to Anthony Davis today on Yahoo, but it's not like an absurd amount of ownership, just a little bit more popular than what he is on FanDuel and DraftKings. So do you have the ownership in front of you? Do you know what the number is for Anthony Davis?
I do.
Okay, I was gonna make you guess an over under, but
I've done too much looking at Yahoo today because I write the article for the NBA Yahoo Cup over there. So go check that out as well. We have it on Awesemo. It's on the Yahoo Sports page on the front page of their fantasy site there. So and Greg, I think you did the single game showdown for baseball as well today. So definitely give that a look as well. You did a great job breaking that down. That's also just an opportunity to get in for they're trying out their new single game stuff. It's a really great format over there. So take a look at some of their baseball stuff as well. An opportunity to win some free credit to be able to go play for free over there. So check out some of the single game stuff. But Anthony Davis coming in around 15% right now. I think that's about appropriate for him at that number. But $38 is very, very cheap. He's under $40. We know he does have upside. It's not like I was begrudgingly say that I didn't like him by any means. I just think compared to a guy like Kelly Olynyk, who, is just a significantly better basketball player, of course, is what I was trying to say. And that's not true. He's not listening to me. But Kelly Olynyk, I definitely like a lot more at his $33.
Yeah, and then also, he is currently 31.4% owned on Yahoo. And by the way, guys, here are the most popular plays on Yahoo. So let's see, how many is this? Of the 6 most popular plays on Yahoo, the guys who are rostered the most, 4 of them are Houston Rockets. KJ Martin Jr., it's Kenny Martin Jr., 55.6%. He's in 55.6% of lineups. Anthony Lamb, 32%. Kelly Olynyk, 31.4%. Armani Brooks, 28.4%. So the two guys who are not Houston Rockets that are popping up in a lot of rosters today on Yahoo. Mo Bamba, 46.8%. Delon Wright at 34%. So of those guys that we mentioned, Eric, 6 guys, all of them rostered over 30, or all in the neighborhood of 30+%. Armani Brooks is 28%. Mm-hmm. Which one you'd be most apt to go under the field on?
I think, I can tell you who I am most under the field. So I'm under the field on Mo Bamba over there. So I already have quite a bit of exposure. The way the salaries work out, it is a $10 minimum salary. Yahoo does, I would say, the best job pricing out of any of the main sites. They do an incredible job at generally avoiding, like this is kind of a rare slate where you're getting some crazy ownership on some plays that kind of emerged out of nowhere. Like putting KJ Martin at $27 would probably make the slate a little bit increased, maybe Mo Bamba at 30, but for the most part, there are other paths to be going. I think the center spot is very interesting now because Mo Bamba is soaking up the most of that ownership. You have Vooch. I think you have Mo Wagner at $13, who's an amazing pivot. I would say he's probably my favorite center play. I'm getting to him. I'm making 10 lineups in that $20. I've got him right now in 50% of my lineups over there. And I feel pretty good about him as a straight pivot off of Bamba. $13, you get that $10, put that to work elsewhere in the lineup. And then also, Nikola Jokic is super expensive. He's $53. But you're telling me you're going to give me a 6% Nikola Jokic on a slate with less than 2,000 entries. I'm happy to take some shots on him, just going out and putting up the ceiling game that you absolutely need on this slate and combining him around Houston value. So I would say Mo Bamba, probably the guy that I'm the most willing to go a little bit under on over on Yahoo. I'd say KJ Martin, I'm about at the field. I think that's about appropriate. Anthony Lamb, it's so hard for me to get away from these $10 and $11 pieces of Houston value because you don't have New Orleans Pelicans. I don't have New Orleans Pelicans either, but on Draftkings, but on Yahoo specifically, feel really, really good about those plays.
All right. So, by the way, I want to mention something here really quick, just because I thought it was somewhat of an important question in a weird way in our premium Slack chat. But somebody said that Jeffries is not in the DraftKings player pool. Incorrect. He is in the DraftKings player pool. However, his name is spelled a little bit different, I guess, than you'd think that Jeffries is spelled. It's spelled Jeffries. So if you're searching for Daquan Jeffries on Yahoo or wherever else you're playing, I'll just make sure you're spelling his name correctly. That's one of the reasons that could make it hard to find him. I know, actually, I thought it was funny because I did the same thing earlier where I was searching for him and I did Jeffe and I was like, oh my God, how come I can't find him? And it's, he spells his name. It's Jeffries. So that is the way to find him. And by the way, guys, today's show is sponsored by Yahoo Daily Fantasy. And if you are making your first deposit on Yahoo, use the promo code Awesemo, and you get a $30 bonus in free play money. And they also have their $3,500 big baller contest today. They made the contest a little bit bigger than it normally is in order to try to get the contest as big as possible for us. Because last week when we did the show for the first time, it filled ridiculously early. And they said, hey, let's up the contest, make it a little bigger. And not filled yet. So I'd like us to look good and definitely fill that. So go do that for me. Do it for Eric. Do it for Eric's lineups and all of that. If you guys fill this contest today, Eric's eyebrow will regrow by tomorrow morning. Right now we have 1,605 entries out of 1,975. So about 375 left to fill. Go ahead. Do that for us. Make us heroes. Make us feel good. And that will definitely help. Here we have a super chat from Corey Bomber. He's saying that he has 8,000 in utility for his last minute on DK. He's asking Buddy Hield or Kelly Olynyk, although he spelled Kelly Olynyk wrong. He spelled it Olynyx as if it's like Onyx the Pokemon. But all right, that aside, that is still Kelly Olynyk for me. I know that I said overall, as a whole for the slate, I'm not big on Kelly Olynyk. I have him project for more fantasy points than Buddy Hield. I like him more than Buddy.
You at least gave me that one. I appreciate it. I'll take it. Kelly Olynyk, just give it all to me. You know what? I'm going to just, I'm trying to figure out what I want to do here with a couple of these pieces. So on Yahoo also, one of the fun things is Alex Caruso. So he's $10 as well. I was talking about how we have this Houston value. I think figuring out what to do with Alex Caruso is much more difficult because the opportunity cost on a $10 player at the minimum here is a little bit different than it would be on a site like DraftKings. I think Armani Brooks is going to I'm going to prioritize him, I think, as the $10 play that I like the most. Daquan Jeffries as well. Both kind of making sense, projected right around 38 minutes. But Alex Caruso was somebody that I think I was going to get to a lot more earlier. I'm still going to get to 30%, so he'll still be over the field. But before, I was planning on having him in all 10 of my lineups. I'm probably going to go lighter now. And also, we got Jared Vanderbilt in the starting lineup for Minnesota. I saw that came through. So I actually feel good taking a couple shots on him as well.
Yes, the starting lineup for the Wolves tonight: Ricky Rubio, D'Angelo Russell, Anthony Edwards, Vanderbilt, and then Karl Anthony Towns. We did get another, by the way, strong start for Ben Simmons. He's got 2 points, a rebound, and an assist 3 minutes into the game. Not bad. Not bad. I'm nothing crazy, but you can't be upset with that, right?
No, I mean,
yeah, look at that. Oh my God, Tyler, this is going to be, I'm sending a note to Chris after this. I'm saying we need more Tyler on Live Before Lock. Jordan isn't bringing the sound drops. Jordan's got up his sound drop game.
Tyler has pride. That's what it is. Tyler takes pride in his work, and Jordan is a spineless. You know what? It's fine. Hopefully he's not watching. Don't hurt me. I love you, Jordan.
See, this is where we differ. I hope he is watching. But not
obviously. You like drama. You love drama.
But the other thing too is I want him to see how Tyler's utilizing the sound drops. I want him to see this element that could be added to the show. He's like right now, Tyler is the Fred Norris of our program. And I don't know if anybody knows what that reference is, but Tyler's playing a strong third role here.
I feel really good about our little SNL bit we had going with the sad music. I think that's a keeper. I think we created something special. So thank you, Tyler. I think that'll be my after the weekend of DFS. If things went poorly, I think we have to do a recap from now on.
Yeah, unfortunately, I stepped on you a little bit, and I've been recording that for the last 12. It's the only thing I've thought about for the last 12 minutes. So I was like, I should have just let Eric go, and he was killing it. And I tried to butt in, and it was like, yeah, it's fine. Boy, I messed that up. Eric,
you did not want me to get that glory. I knew it. I knew that's what it was. I knew you got to keep me in my box, Greg. I get it. I was trying to lift you up and tag it, and I was like, oh crap, Eric was doing so much better than what I'm going to add here. So I find it so ironic that people think we actually don't like each other sometimes. I think we were talking about that one day. It's like, dude, you're like one of the best, and it's so easy to do shows with you and really enjoy it. I can't believe sometimes people think that we're actually being mean to each other, but maybe you're actually being mean to me. I don't know, but I don't take it as that.
Last Saturday, how long did we spend on Zoom last Saturday? We spent like the entire night just talking about nonsense on Zoom. We probably spent like 4 hours talking about nothing. So I don't even remember what day it was.
Life and sports and DFS, and I think I had a profitable night too as we were talking through stuff. So no, good times were had by all.
All right, another super chat here from Glyn Hunt, Glyn. I'm not sure what that name is. I'm going to say it's either Glyn or Glenn. How would you pronounce it? Glyn as a first name.
Glyn?
Glyn? That's what I say.
Because you would think it would be Glenn, but I think it's Glyn Hunt, if I had a guess. If I'm wrong, let me know, but Glyn Hunt, thank you.
So he's saying, who are the best shooting guard plays on FanDuel? So who are the two shooting guards that, I'll say two. The two overall top shooting guard plays on FanDuel. To me, one is certainly Terry Rozier at 6,200. Mm-hmm. Do you feel any differently about that?
No, he's one of the better ones, but I'm a little bit underneath the field because I think that there are some viable pivots. And I think my favorite shooting guard to play in tournaments is CJ McCollum. So if you want to talk about the narrative about it being a playoff game, we talked a lot about it being a 6-7 game where it's extremely important for both teams. CJ McCollum is going to have to go out. We've seen for the last couple of years in playoff games, he and Damian Lillard play like 42, 44 minutes. I think there's upside for that from both of them tonight. And so I'm valuing both a little bit more than the field.
Yeah, so it's tough for me because he asked the question obviously after lock. My actual second answer would have been Eric Bledsoe. And I don't even know if Bledsoe's off to a good start in this game or not. But I mean, just so many guys out for the Pelicans, and I'm a known Eric Bledsoe, 3 points and assists. So not great, not bad. But I'm a known Eric Bledsoe mark. But I just think going forward with so many guys out for the Pelicans, he would be somebody to roster. But right now, I think the obvious one is for sure Terry Rozier. And I think CJ McCollum's a pretty good call also for a tournament. Something else is that game matters a ton for the Lakers and the Blazers. These are teams that are playing to potentially avoid the play-in game. And with that in mind, I think that's one of the reasons also I think Anthony Davis plays extended minutes. I think Damian Lillard plays extended minutes. I think CJ McCollum, Jusuf Nurkic, all those guys play a little bit more than they normally would. So anybody from that game, I think there's reason to like them. All right. That answers all the super chats that we have for now. But getting back to Yahoo, we've gone over some of the more popular plays on the slate. Is there anybody who stands out to you that's maybe a little bit more of a contrarian option that is making it into your Yahoo lineups right now?
Okay, so I had a couple of pieces that I had kind of pegged. Guys, so one, again, if we're going to talk about plays that we're getting to on Yahoo that give you exposure, if you just kind of like group it up, DeMar DeRozan was somebody that was popping up a lot more for me. I'm getting to him less now. He's getting around 20%, so I think I'm going to be lighter there. Having Jared Vanderbilt in the starting lineup, I think he's going to pop up much more meaningfully for me as well. I just got him in 3 of my 10 lineups there. He's at $10. I think that he makes for a great pivot off of some of these Houston guys, or just a good guy to kind of throw into the middle of KJ Martin, throwing into the middle of Anthony Lamb, Armani Brooks, all the usual regulars that we have there. CJ McCollum there as well. It's just a little bit too expensive. Like $31 it looks pretty good when you compare him. Like you have $33 for Kelly Olynyk and such, but the shooting guard position, there is enough value that I don't know like if I necessarily want to go there. But at the point guard position, I do really, really like Chris Paul over on Yahoo. He's at 4% going up against the Knicks. It's somebody that nobody's really going to get to. He's cheaper than LaMelo Ball. He's at $33. Let me group it by salary. That'll be easier, but he's cheaper than LaMelo Ball. He's $2 underneath Drew Holiday. I think if we get that official news, I might have to turn it into some Drew Holiday at $35. But looking around in that price range, like it's kind of a no man's land there. Kevin Porter's out. DeJounte Murray, I don't really want to be doing that as good of a spot as that could be for him. He's garnering much more ownership. I mean, we saw Chris Paul 2 games ago go for 72. Against the Hawks, they got kind of completely blown out there. It was an absolute trap game for them on a back-to-back. I'm going to go back to the Chris Paul well over on Yahoo today.
So my contrarian option right now is Luka Doncic. There's a whole lot of guys that we could pay up for, or a whole bunch of guys we could save salary with on Yahoo. And Luka is very expensive on Yahoo. His salary is what was it, $54. So it's a pretty exorbitant salary. And I mean, you had mentioned also Jokic being really expensive at $53. That's his salary on Yahoo. But even so, I think Luka, there's enough value on the slate, and he is a substantial enough upside in a matchup against a team like the Cleveland Cavaliers that if you want to differentiate yourself and give yourself a real chance to take first in the $35,000 baller contest on Yahoo, I think one of the guys that you could look at that's a little bit different is Luka Doncic. By the way, somebody who's in a ton of my Draftkings lineups today because there's all the value in the world. I think it's easy enough to pay up for guys today. So that's one way that I think, number one, not only is he a lower somebody who's in less lineups, but also somebody who is just going to put you on a totally different lineup construction than everybody else.
One other guy, I want to throw him into the $10 mix. So I was just grouping through $10. What are you doing with Paul Millsap of all people today? Projecting out really well. He's at the $10 mark as well. And I think getting the right $10 players matters a lot today, especially if you're planning to go heavy with a guy like Luka.
Yeah, I didn't get to Paul Millsap exposure anywhere today. I'm not really sure what to make of his minutes. He started last game. He played 24 minutes. It was also a blowout win over the Knicks, so maybe he would have played more minutes had it been more competitive. But still, I mean, you go back and you look at Paul Millsap's other games before then, he had not played over 20 minutes since... I'll throw this... I'll do a little trivia here. When do you think is the last time Paul Millsap played over 20 minutes before last game?
Let's go February 18th.
March 26th.
Okay, I was close.
It's still a while ago though, and it's not like he's been a good fantasy producer when he's been on the court either this year. I mean, he's been fine about a fantasy point per minute, but when you consider it's not like he's min price or anything like that, and it seems pretty unlikely to me that he plays a substantial amount of minutes. I don't know what his upside is relative to some of the other value plays we have on the slate. So to me, Paul Millsap, not somebody I'm quite getting to. I'd rather just go. I know they're chalky. But to me, I'd just rather go with the Chalk Rockets guys today.
I like that. That's fair to me. I'm trying to figure out which $10 guys I really want to identify. And I think Vanderbilt really kind of sticks out for me as well as kind of my primary contrarian guy, but wanted to get your thoughts on him as well.
All right. And by the way, also, we currently have 250 spots left in the Yahoo not actually, it was 250. We had Tom had put a message in the Slack chat, and I thought like, hey, 250, I'll just read off that number. But I think that message in the Slack chat prompted a few people to enter. So we have about 150 spots left in the Yahoo 35K ball. And then once again, guys, if you're new to Yahoo, use the promo code Awesemo. If it's your first deposit, you get $30 in Yahoo free play money that you can use to enter a contest. So that would be worth a couple of entries in the Yahoo contest there. So definitely something to take advantage of. And also, let's really quick here before the Yahoo slate locks. I think we would be remiss if we did not check on the status of Ben Simmons. Not a bad start. First 7 minutes of the game, 2 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists. We're looking at a little over a fantasy point per minute. It would be really funny if he just ends up being a neutral play for the slate. Like he just scores somewhere, like it just doesn't matter for your lineups. He just scores somewhere in the neighborhood of like 40 fantasy points.
If he doesn't do anything for my lineup, then it was a bad thing because you're hunting upside. And so it's basically when you accidentally lock somebody in like this, it's like a smash or nothing. He's at 10.25 over on DK. He's 3.4% in the $4. Oh, this is just pathetic. This was terrible.
Well, the good news is you don't have to worry about it on Yahoo. By the way, do you have your Yahoo lineups uploaded? We don't want to do this again.
I do.
Okay. All right. Let's sweat it. Let's sweat it.
Step away from the computer. No, I think I was just I thought I had more time than I did. I was bouncing back and forth trying to update everything at once. Because what I find difficult is when I update on a bunch of news and then I go to the other, I try to do each piece of news and go on like DraftKings, Fanduel, Yahoo, and try to go like down the line with each piece of news. Otherwise I forget something. Like, do you do it that way, or do you literally go DraftKings, all the changes, FanDuel, all the changes?
Yeah, so I do all the changes at once. But here's the other thing also. That's also why I don't play like a million sports at the same time that I'm hosting a live before lock show.
Thanks, Greg. That was your bedside manner is something, let me tell you.
But it's not like we haven't talked about it. Like, do you really need, like, we've seen with EMAC too, right? EMAC 2024, right? This is also why this is why there's nobody more qualified to run for president than EMAC, is because he's capable of playing 30 different DFS sports while he's also hosting a show. I can't do that. I kind of run out of space for me to be able to do that on my own. I just run out of attention span, and there's only so many things to do. But by the way, we now have less than 100 spots left in the Yahoo Baller contest. We have about a minute and a half until that locks. And if you guys want to get in it, number one, you've only got 90 seconds to do it. Number two, we're running out of spots. So a race against the clock and a race against whoever else is trying to enter it. Who is the player that you have the most exposure to overall on Yahoo tonight, Eric?
Kelly Olynyk.
I figured you would say that.
So I've got Kelly Olynyk. Bobby Portis is my second guy. Bobby Portis, I'm just assuming that we're going to get that Giannis out news. So I've got Chris Middleton and Bobby Portis as well.
It is Mo Bamba for me. Bamba also a really popular play, but to me, I have Bamba projected fairly similarly to Kelly Olynyk, but Bamba considerably cheaper on DraftKings and certainly cheaper on Yahoo. We've got a salary of $33 for Olynyk on Yahoo, $23 for Mo Bamba. Now, I know for the main slates what your answer to this question is going to be. It would be Ben Simmons, but on Yahoo, Eric, which is the player most likely to end your night?
I mean, Kelly Olynyk and Mo Wagner.
Okay. So Mo Wagner, I assume just kind of as a pivot, a little bit of leverage off of.
Yeah, a little bit of leverage. He's still projecting out well. He's $10 cheaper. If I get any kind of a game where Bamba doesn't go completely ham and break the slate, I think the main recipient of that is going to be Mo Wagner. They're going to play minutes next to each other. He plays the backup 5. Feel pretty good about him as my pivot.
All right. So for me, let's see. Actually, for me, it's still going to be Kelly Olynyk everywhere. I mean, I think at $33, he's a little more viable of a play for me on Yahoo than other sites. But still, I'm underweight to the field on Olynyk today. I understand the upside. Everybody's out for Houston. There's just other guys I'd rather pay up for. That's really the fact of the matter. It's not to say that anybody who played him, I would go out and say it's a bad play. I certainly wouldn't say that to Eric, but it's just a situation where we had a bunch of guys to pay up for a whole lot of value. I didn't quite get to Kelly Olynyk, but guys, that is going to do it for the show today. If you've not done so already, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also, if you have yet to deposit on Yahoo, use the promo code Awesemo and you get $30 in Yahoo credits. You could use those to enter the big baller contest that we're probably going to be going on next week as well.